Alexa, turn on. Oh. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Automate Your Podcast. It's the free live virtual conference. It's the seventh one we've done since March 29th. We're going till 3 o'clock. So we're here. We have seven. Actually, I think I'm supposed to be speaking as well today. I kind of forgot, and all the craziness going on around the house and everything going on here. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Automate Your Podcast. If you could drop in the chat, where are you listening from? What are you up to this morning? What are you drinking? I'm drinking water as always. It's what's for everything. It's what's for every time, all of the time. Let's see. Oh, Keith is listening from New Hampshire. Heather Bayer's in the house. What's up, Heather? How you doing this morning? How you feeling? How's COVID treating you up there in Canada? Anyway, this conference is brought to you by Repurpose.io. You definitely want to go and check them out because I've been using them for years now. They allow you to reach more people with your podcast. This is easy. This easy to use platform saves you hours by automatically converting your audio into video and publishing them to multiple platforms. You can try it for free. Plus, receive a 25% discount on all paid plans. Go to repurpose.io/icon, and I'll be having that scroll down through the bottom. Hey, good morning, Facebook user. I don't know who that is because you got to go to streamyard.com/Facebook. Good morning, Greg. How are you feeling this morning up there in Ontario, Canada? Let's see here. And you spelt it once for me to pronounce. Today, if you want to say thank you to me, if you want to say thank you to the speakers, you need to head over to indiepodcasters.com/TSY. As soon as I can find it. We've already raised $10 so far. That's for That Suits You. They are an incredible organization. You can read more about them over at indiepodcasters.com/TSY and learn how they help people get suits for those job interviews and more. So PK is a great guy. I got to meet him years ago, and he's doing great, huge, enormous things with That Suits You. And I really wanted to be able to support him and raise some money. Also, this virtual conference is brought to you by Simple Easy Marketing. You should totally go check out timgillette.com/virtual because on July 18th, Tim will help you get more traffic, build community, and make money with your platform that you are building. So Tim's a great guy. I've gotten to know him quite a bit over these last couple of months. And I have really, really enjoyed working with him. We did a mastermind together for holding virtual conferences. It's been awesome. So you'll see his stuff scrolling through around here down below. And he'll be speaking later today on automate the repurposing of your podcast. Also, I forgot to mention Hani Mora, who owns and runs Repurpose.io, one of our sponsors, is speaking second today at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. So really looking forward to hearing what he has to bring. And Repurpose.io is just so helpful. It's beyond helpful. It enables me to go live daily with the IndiePod Daily Show. Also, this conference is brought to you by IndiePod University. So if you want to get access to 150 plus hours, including this conference you're watching right now, after a week, it will be going into the IndiePod University. You can get 7-day free trial. Go to indiepodu.com and get signed up because the price on that is going up tomorrow, July 12th. It's gonna be price increasing. So if you want to lock in that $9.99 price or $99 a year price, because we are adding new content literally daily, and and these conferences that we're hosting, these virtual conferences, are going in there as well. As far as Icon 6 live from the backyard, we've been selling some live stream tickets this past week. We still have a handful of limited live in person tickets if you want to come. It's literally being held back here in my backyard. Here just outside of Philadelphia. So go to indiepodcasters.com/icon6 if you want to join us. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time as long as everything doesn't go sideways between now and then. And yeah, there's what else is there that I'm missing? What am I missing? I have a big announcement later on today. I will be giving out that big announcement about the next live free virtual conference. I think you're all gonna love the topic. If you been in the Facebook group, if you haven't been in the Facebook group, you totally should be in the Facebook community. Go to indiepodcasters.com/group to go check that out. And also this just this week, me and Larry Roberts launched our Launch Your Own podcast. It's 4 hours of me and Larry walking you through step by step how to launch your podcast with purpose. And also Ross Brand and I, if you want to master live streaming, then you definitely want to go to superjoepardo.com/master. Actually, that'll take you there, but I'll update it. It's indiepodcasters.com/master because we just released a 6-module set, so about 6 hours worth of content showing you how to master your video, your lighting, your audio, StreamYard, engagement, and your structure for your live streams to get the most out of doing them. So anyway, at this time, let's see. Hey, Tim, what's going on, man? What do I know? Here's what I know. I did not get much sleep last night. I have an earache or ear infection or swimmer ear. I'm not really. I don't know. It's not something I normally get, but I've been getting them ever since we've been getting more into the pool with the kids. I've gotten more and more of them over the years. So I did not sleep well. My whole jaw hurts. It was not good. So I'm very tired. My ear hurts, and we're gonna get through this. And then I'm going to try my best to relax while spending time with the rest of the day with the kids. So at this time, I need some super claps in the chat for our first speaker who is speaking on the topic of getting creatives as guests on a music podcast. Everyone, I need those super claps right here, right now I have a new clap button too. Woo! Yeah. I need those super claps in the chat for Super Keith Gittins Jones, also known as my special guest coming through the door behind me here. What was it? Oh man, I'm missing where's my notes? My notes are missing. Phantom Electric Ghost. Everyone, give those super claps up, please. Please. Woo! What's up, Keith?
Hey, so I am Phantom Electric Ghost, or Keith Gittins Jones. My stage name is my band, and my podcast have the same name. I've been podcasting since 2016. I originally started on Spearman.
Hey. We're doing a live stream here.
That happens under lockdown. But I originally started on an app called Spearman. And what happened is I'm on SoundCloud, and I had 90,000 listeners on SoundCloud. Wow. And what happened was that one of the people from Spearman contacted me and said, "Hey, I'd like to interview about your music." So I started his name was Rock Tunes. He was in a band in New York City. And so he started interviewing artists, and I was like, okay, I was his first guest. And then I decided, well, I'll start my own podcast on that platform. And what I initially did is I would go to my Instagram and I would look at who was liking my postings on Instagram, and typically on Instagram there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of musicians, and if they like me, I'd like them, and then I'd send them a pitch, and I ended up drafting a pitch on Google Docs, and I would tell them what I was about and what I was going to do, and I was going to give them this kind of free form platform to talk in an audio only about their music, kind of like Unplugged or behind the music. and I would ask the artist, all about their raison d'etre, like what's behind the song. And we wouldn't talk about their girlfriends or what's happening I talk about the music, how they produce their music, how they do things. And I started to build that up, and then that platform went away to an automation capability called Headliner now, and they do a lot of cool things similar to what you just talked about in terms of automating your platform. So I ended up going to Anchor FM, which is a different platform. And from there, I increased my audience massively because they're integrated with Spotify, and that's really like a core music platform. And so we are actually part of Spotify. And from there, I was able to use their tools in terms of their integration with Instagram to have the podcast automatically highlight from Instagram, which if you're a musician, if you can get the Spotify version of your podcast to link up to your music, that's something that a lot of musicians are going to be interested in, because that's where the platform their music is on. And so from there, it's just I created all these templates in Google Doc, and I created a question list after like doing the podcast for a year. I created the standard question list of questions I would ask artists, and every time I got a hit on Instagram from an artist saying that they like my work, I would go and send the pitch and ask them, like, when are you available in the next month? What time zone are you in? And the cool thing was I was able to talk to them without talking to their agent. Most of these artists, if you talk to them on Instagram directly, you didn't have to go through their agent. You didn't have to go through their publicist. You were talking to the artist directly. And then from there, you started to build like a community of all these indie artists that wanted to get their work promoted. In podcasting is one of the best ways for musicians to get their message out there. And it's just grown and grown. And I've been able to actually, from these podcasts, I actually have collaborations with artists that I've interviewed, who have actually done albums with the artists that I've interviewed. I've been able to do all kinds of interesting things. And what's cool about, the whole podcasting platform, it just opens up like a whole world of this narrative where, we can build these communities of like-minded creatives. And it's gone from just being musicians to being, novelists, to being influencers. I've interviewed, companies, like people who are running like photo galleries, people or artists who are doing art auctions, all different types of things. There's still an idea of doing creative people who want to get their message out. And lately I've been using, a tool called Headliner, which actually does an automation capability of taking my podcast and then pushing it out. So it makes like an audio podcast, turns it into a video podcast, and then pushes that out to YouTube. And so, it's interesting because Headliner is where I started because it's Spearman. And Spearman, I actually, I'm an IT professional in my spare time. So I ended up doing some beta testing for them. I did beta testing for SoundCloud. I did some beta testing on the Anchor platform. And so from doing, my IT job, which I'm into technology, I dive down into the minutia of things. But I think what's really interesting about being able to get these podcasts out there is that you can reach an international audience. And that's, I think, one of the best things about, getting the artists, because of this podcast platform, I can talk to artists, through my cell phone or through my Google Chromebook. I've talked to artists in Belgium this week. I talked to artists in Berlin. I'm able to get a really in-depth communication, and it's just through, these tools like a cell phone. I mean, I can use my iPhone, I can use my Chromebook, and then, it's not, costing them the cost of a phone call. It's just, through the internet. And from there, they're able to, push out through all kinds of interesting tools. Like I said before, on Instagram, there's a linkage between the podcast and a highlight. And then when you create that, somebody can click on the highlight and then boom, they go right to the podcast. which is a good way. You don't have to go and look for some hyperlink and then have to retype it. It just bounces right through, and it goes right to the podcast. And so that ends up being a very good tool to allow people to hear your podcast if they actually see the visual on Instagram, and then they click the story, then they click the little button that has the highlight, boom, they're right into the podcast on the platform that you want them to be on. If you're a musician, Spotify is where you want to be. Not that I'm pushing them, but you can listen to it on multiple platforms. The automation within the tool that I'm on goes out to 11 different podcast platforms. So my audience went from, I might not have the biggest audience in the world, but when I started on Spearmint, I only had maybe 3,000-4,000 listeners. I have 24,000. And we're on target to maybe hit over 30,000 this year. Now I want to increase, and I want to do video versions of this podcast. So now I'm very interested in this whole. I just started to get interested in Indie PodCon and in the tools that are here. So I'm going to be definitely listening to the future guests on here that are talking about the visual interface, and I'm really trying to merge a lot of what I'm doing. And part of what we want to do in the future with our podcast, because we've been talking to a lot of musicians, is to do concerts. I mean, I do Facebook Live and Twitch concerts right now. But what would be cool is to actually do a concert with an artist, like in Belgium, or an artist in Germany, and they're in their bedroom studio and I'm in my bedroom studio. And the ability for us to maybe have a split screen live kind of unplugged performance. That to me would be really cool, because in this lockdown situation, one of the problems that artists have, and we've been doubling down on the podcast lately, is they can't tour. They can't go to a venue. And so this podcast has been a really good lifeline to letting the audiences of artists or creative people, to let them know, let their audience know that they're still around, that they're still putting out material. A lot of times in our podcast, we're promoting the artist's latest album. We'll do release shows where we'll talk about every track on an album. Then we'll kind of send people to those tracks. So then it's a really good promotional tool. We don't charge because we have sponsors and we're able to handle that. But the idea is that we build this kind of free kind of music community, because I grew up listening to the hippie aesthetic of music is for everyone, the kind of Deadhead, Grateful Dead, or Funkadelic idea of you're going to get this community, and Pete Townshend's idea in Lifehouse that you're somehow going to come together with the band and you're just gonna have this experience. And I think podcasting has allowed me to build a music community of like-minded creators that sometimes we collaborate, we push each other's music. We use these tools to find ways to reach new audiences through automation, sending our stuff to YouTube, sending it to other platforms. And now, like I said, one of the things we're very interested in is tools that could allow you to even, do Pro Tools or digital audio workstation collaboration. I think in the Corona time, one of the things that we're very interested in, we've been trying to figure out how to get this to work, is to allow people to use, digital audio workstations in real time. And so one of the things we think would be very useful for those of you who are in the technology field, and I am myself, to be able to have something like a Pro Tools or an Ableton Live capability in real time and actually work with an artist in Paris or Germany or in the US, in New York City. And let's say you're in your home studio and you're a drummer and you want to play to a track, like if you were at, Electrical Alien Studios, and you want to be able to play in real time with a drummer, with a singer or a bass player or a guitar player, if it could be facilitated through a podcast type of technology, along with an audio interface technology, like a digital audio workstation, and actually be able to track and create that collaboration and maybe even stream it out. So the fans actually are looking at a real working session of musicians. So these are the types of things I think that, given in this coronavirus time, that these are the aspects of technology that can really be helpful to creative people. If you can give creative people the ability to actually be in a virtual music studio that gives you the power to collaborate and do live shows. I mean, not only could you do live studio sessions, you could do live concerts from your own particular zone. You could be, you know, an artist in Belgium, an artist in Australia, an artist in Tokyo, jamming with another band in a virtual concert. That is what we're very much interested in, that type of technology. And from the day that we started this on Spearman to the day now we're on Anchor FM and looking at all these other capabilities to be able to do, you know, not just audio podcasting. We're primarily an audio podcaster. And we get our guests and we talk in terms of typical audio form podcast that you hear like on Apple or Spotify. But we are very much moving toward video. We attempted video a couple of years ago with a collective that we met in France. We tried to do video Facebook live interviews, and it just didn't seem to work the way we needed it to. And it seems like platforms like this platform are what we're probably going to end up going with to do that, what we tried to do about 2 years ago. Not that we don't still try from time to time on more lo-fi type efforts. Can we take whatever tools are out there, we try to use them to the max. And so we're very much interested in anything that can allow guests to come on with a split screen and be able to, you know, talk about and show what they're working on. So for a musician, a lot of times what they want to be able to do is maybe show their music video, talk about their music video, show their album cover, you know, and actually integrate it into the video version of their podcast. So you can have a high quality picture of the album cover, you know, actually put up the lyrics as a slide, photos of them in the studio, videos integrated into the podcast so you can bring a video into it. Then it gives a full experience, like you're really doing like an unplugged, you know, behind the music type of interview, which is what we've been doing through an audio fashion, through the tools that we use. And a lot of times when we're just using an iPhone on a tripod, you know, we do integrate some of our better microphones into our podcast through some interfaces. We use like Roland, like audio interfaces because we're musicians, so we tend to use a lot of musician type gear. You know, that we bring into the studio. We use some of our mixers to help do some of our podcast when we're doing it, because we're able to take like a soundboard. So a lot of times we'll take our soundboard and integrate the music from our soundboard recording studio into our podcast. And that's a cool idea. And there's a lot of tools you can use to actually get soundboard level quality sound. In fact, a lot of times we'll do podcast, you know, live concerts, where pretty much the whole point of the thing is it's a live concert. And we'll run from our studio mixing soundboard right to the podcast platform, and then put it, you know, through some interfaces, audio interfaces, get that sound as high quality as we can get into the vein. So we were able to not just use open air mics, we're actually using direct lines from soundboards, which we can control the level of the mix and the effects. And if you're a musician, you're very into the sound quality of what you do in terms of trying to replicate it and get the audience to hear exactly what you're doing. So I think in the future, you know, automation tools that allow you to take video of, like, you take a video performance on Facebook Live, you use a tool that converts that video into audio, and then you put it out on an audio only podcast. We've been doing that a lot lately, where we'll do a Twitch performance, and we go and then turn it into an audio podcast and maybe interlace it with segments of commentary about the concert. And so there's a lot of interesting things you can do. I mean, a lot of what we do is not real time. A lot of tools we use are tools that allow us to record and then create segments, create advertisements within our platform. And so when we do the interview, we have the ability to kind of restart if we have glitches, or do a retake in like real time. We can be with an artist that we interview, and we can actually, say, hey, we have to, do something to fix the sound quality. So we can choose to trim that clip. So since it's not live, we have some tools that allow us to trim and kind of rearrange the interview. So if we had an hour-long interview, you want to take the last 30 minutes and actually move that to the beginning because it wasn't recorded live. We're using tools that allow us to actually, trim and actually cut and then remix, kind of like you're in a digital audio workstation. So for musicians who understand that kind of grid life, you can actually use tools that allow you to do that level of editing. And then you can have sponsors if you're influence marketing, where you can, some of our platforms have the ability to do influence marketing. So you, in the middle of your podcast, you have an advertisement where you do a pitch, and you do an audio pitch for an advertiser, and you place it into your platform. And sometimes what we do is we do pitches for acts. So when part of our appeal to get musicians to come on our show is that we can do a little advertisement for their latest project, and then we'll pitch it to that audience. And then it goes and gets pushed out through the tools to multiple podcast platforms. So then when that podcast gets out there, it's hitting multiple platforms across the net. It's got a segment that's advertising what that band wants to push, which is their product, which is an album or a single or a video or a concert or merch. A lot of times bands, to survive, they have to sell t-shirts. A lot of bands will make more money from their merch than they do from their music. And so being able to push a band's artwork as t-shirts or posters, doing a segment, being able to record that segment into the podcast and then put it in there as an ad, then also having the ability to use hyperlinks that are clickable. And so when you push your podcast out, it has a hyperlink to the band's Spotify or the band's Apple Music, or to their own website where they're selling their own vinyl, where they're selling their own tapes or USB drives. A lot of bands are being very creative with different merch that they do. And being able to have a podcast that when it gets published has hyperlinks that help push that band's product or pushes that band's work is really a good thing to do. And I think also a part of getting guests on a podcast is being sensitive and listening to the artist and understanding what they want. And I think being a musician myself and a producer, the questions I ask kind of drives artists to want to be on the podcast. And we always give, as I said, when I run my pitch with a musician, they come out to my Instagram and they suddenly say they like one of my videos. That when I go to talk to them, I actually send a pitch that if a creative person is going to really identify with, because I'm getting at like, what are the emotions? What are the kind of the impetus behind what you wrote, why you wrote the song? Not this like, oh, is it banging? Is it a hit? But to try to drive out the pain or the joy that was behind the song. And so if you're a musician and you understand that, you're not just wanting to just like do a 10-minute dive into a song. All of our podcasts go like an hour. And so we give people an example. We'll send them to a link of an interview, an hour-long interview, and then they get to see the depth of what we do. And then a lot of times we get guests. We've been able to get 2-3 guests a week since 2018 through this method of making a connection in social media, actually listening to what the artist wants to do, being able to adjust to their time zone. A lot of times with musicians, I mean, you're dealing with people in Australia, so or Japan, 14-hour time difference. So you have to do your podcast at like 7 a.m. Since ours is kind of pre-recorded, it doesn't really matter. So we'll just get up, and we don't have to look great because it's not a camera. We can just go and do a podcast at 6 a.m. or do one at 9 p.m. So we're very or noontime. We kind of do it based on the time zone. So it's really critical that we figure out what time zone people are in, and we figured out how to use tools to figure out, the conversion. Time conversion is very important for us because a lot of our guests are not in the U.S. So we use a lot of time conversion tools that allow us to figure out what time it is in Belgium, what time it is in Tokyo or Seoul. So that's part of the tool set that we use to figure it out. What we're going to do with that artist when we go to do the podcast. We think that the future of automation and podcasting is kind of what we talked about, the ability to integrate people's hyperlinks, people's merch, JPEGs of high quality artwork, being very, high quality audio is very important for a musician to be able to have. So any tool that can increase the audio quality, the video quality, and then also be able to push out to, all the different areas in the net, from the YouTube to Twitch, all the places that you can put these podcasts. That's kind of key to increasing the development. But also, again, it's the understanding of the content or the people that you interview. So a lot of times, part of the whole relationship with these artists is to make sure we listen to their material before an interview. Make sure that we find something to say after. It's kind of like if you're going to interview an author, you got to read their book and then kind of talk back. If you're going to interview a musician, you listen to their music, you kind of pose certain questions to them about certain aspects or, particular details of a song or a project. And it's really that empathy for the person that you're talking to, in combination with using automation tools to push out the work and anything that can help with scheduling. We're very much interested in auto scheduling. Like, we have the ability to send links that actually kick off our podcast. If we had a tool that would actually be able to, here's the time that this podcast is kicking off, can we put this link into this tool and then have it send that link at that time to that person, to their choice of communication? So it will send it to their Instagram, or it will send it direct message, or it will send it to their Facebook direct message. We're always looking for different ways to do things in order to make sure that, send reminders that the interview. Right now, a lot of times we manually send reminders like a day ahead of time, or the same day, a couple hours before the interview, to let people know the interview is coming. Because we learned that sometimes with musicians, they get so caught up in things, if you don't send them a reminder ahead of time before the podcast, they might miss it. And just a reconfirmation of the time zone is very critical. And just having that tool set to know, they accurately take into account for daylight saving times and all kinds of other things. And there's other time aspects in other countries. So there's things that you have to understand. And then also language difficulties. In some situations, we've had to do podcasts where we actually send the questions to the musician ahead of time. And because of language difficulties, they actually go and record in their own studio the answers. And then we go back and take that tape and then integrate it and actually kind of create like a production, an audio production where I ask the question and then get the response, and I kind of splice them together. And the interview never really happened in real time because of language and difficulties. The person felt more comfortable with their English actually sending me a WAV file of their answers. And then I splice my questions. I actually go and speak out the questions, and I create kind of a faux interview in order to be able to capture more people, be able to get more people onto the show. I'm more able to take people, maybe English is not their first language, so we allow that capability and offer that ahead of time. The people maybe are not comfortable being live, even though we're not really live. We do record live, and then it gets pushed out later. So I think anything that you can look at to increase your capability to have a wider audience. Is a good tool. I mean, right now, I don't know what tool if you're talking about the Stephen Green. It just asked a question or for our artists to collaborate. I mean, a lot of times we use Spearman headliner. We've used Anchor FM. We do a lot of stuff with audio tools from Roland, like Go Livecast, to do things, and the Go Mixer to actually facilitate what we're doing. We're always on the lookout for new tools all the time. Like I said, we're looking at like online DAW. We think that anybody who comes up with an online digital audio workstation that allows artists to collaborate and do live shows, that is something we've been looking for. So if anybody out there knows about one that's already in beta, I'm a beta tester myself, I would love to get into that. We think that that is the future, given especially in the coronavirus time, that digital audio workstation, podcast, video podcast, live streaming capability for all creatives, whether you're an actor that wants to do a one-act play online with all the actors being in different locations. You're a musician with a band and all you guys are locked down and you want to get the band together and do a show. We think that that would be really cool. And the ability to actually not just live stream it, but record it into that DAW and that kind of automation to be able to grab that signal and have it at good enough quality that you could capture it and then go back and bring it into your digital audio workstation and use it and do a live show and eventually publish it to a distribution network. So a lot of times musicians, you're kind of forced to just do an unplugged performance in this time. So we think that that doing this type of work where you could actually have your full guitar with all of its effects, a full synthesizer, a DJ have their full rig, and not just do an unplugged show. Now we've seen people doing this on Twitch and YouTube, but the ability to do it with multiple people, I think, is the key to the future. Good morning, Hanny Mora. Hi. So I hope everybody liked what we have. If you have more questions about like what we do and what we're into, we're very much into having guests come on our show. Like we say, it's free, and we love to interview indie artists, and we're always looking for more people to collaborate with.
Oh, I was muted. Hey, Keith, how we doing?
Good.
Yeah? All right. So there's about 2 minutes left. I don't know if anybody else had any questions for Keith here. So pop them in the comments if you got them in the next couple seconds here, so that we don't end up running out of time. I like to try to keep it, to keep the time moving and stuff.
But I mean, if there's not any more questions, I mean, I think I've kind of talked about what I want the future to be based on, what I think with the time we're in. Musicians have been really harmed by not being able to do live shows. And a lot of times our unplugged performances, what we can do is like an unplugged performance with like acoustic guitar. And that works to a certain aspect, or doing a lip sync kind of, or maybe a overdub on a CDJ or something to do a performance. But to be able to have a platform where multiple artists could, like a full band could actually play, in live stream is a lot of what we're looking for. So anybody who can get us to that, but not just pushing it out, but the ability to how to put it together for musicians and creators, I think that's something that I'm always looking for and been attempting to do it for many years with the current technology. But it's been lacking in terms of lag. If you're trying to play with a band in London, if you're trying to play with a band in Berlin, there ends up being a lag. It makes it hard to actually do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been a thing for I mean, I'm a DJ as well, and you can kind of see behind me there my turntables. Being able to DJ with each other, the latency is kind of a problem. Especially when you're trying to sync up and all that. So Well, at this point, we are out of time there, Keith. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for becoming a part of the Icon community, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I need super claps in the chat for Super Keith Gittens Jones. Everybody, I'll talk to you later, Keith. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, so we're going to remind everybody about, if you want to say thank you to Keith, if you want to say thank you to me, if you want to say thank you to anybody that's speaking today, which we have a number of speakers going on today. Go to indiepodcasters.com/TSY. That stands for That Suits You. My friend PK greatly appreciates all the support. They help get suits to keep both youth and adults that are going through tough times, and they need a suit for for a job interview to help make a great first impression. So he's doing big things. He's been recognized literally all over the country, even by Steve Harvey. On the Steve Harvey show. So definitely go and drop him a few bucks to say thank you to all of us. Also, as a reminder, the IndiePod University is going up in price starting tomorrow night at like 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe is the time I have set on my calendar, to raise the price. So if you want to lock in the current price, you should totally do it. I know Stephen Green, who's speaking later today, he absolutely loves it and gets a ton of value out of those past Icon and MapCon events that are all archived there. Yeah, so at this time, let me see here. At this time, I want to bring on our next speaker, who is one of our sponsors with Repurpose.io, which helps me save a lot of time, enables me to go live daily and turn those episodes not only into the Facebook video, but into YouTube videos. And then using another product of his enables me to get those videos from YouTube onto my website, so that there you go, Stephen Green. Icon U is huge value. It really is, and I want people to take advantage of the fact that it's only $9.99 a month or $99 a year, and lock that in for life rather than paying more. I don't really want you to pay more. So go to indiepodu.com. But speaking of our next speaker and how his products help me enable me to do that live, and then shortcut the process to okay, now we're gonna go from doing a show once a week on Wednesdays to doing it. We do it 5 days a week, but I'm live 7 days a week in the IndiePod community. It's largely in part because of our next speaker and his ability to put this awesomeness together. His topic that he is speaking on today is automatically turn one episode into 28 pieces of content. I think I'm only turning it into about 4 pieces of content at the moment. So I'm looking forward to learning a little more in depth about how I can up my automation value and spreading the message of IndiePod community to the rest of the world. I need super claps in the chat for Super Hanimura. Woo! What is going on, sir?
Ooh. Hey,
how you feeling?
I'm awesome, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I got like this earache thing going on. It hurts a lot.
Oh, no.
Like I didn't sleep much last night.
Man.
But we're doing it. We're here. Like
we're doing it. We gotta show up. The show must go on.
All the time. I mean, yeah, it hurt. Like I can't wait to get these headphones off my head. But I got my laptop over here to listen from speakers. So how's everything been going? How's quarantine treating you, sir?
We're making the best of it. More family time, more you got to work with your parameters and just make the best of it. It's tough. Some days are tougher, and but overall life is good. Everyone's healthy. Really, that's the bottom line.
No, I love it. I love it. And this is your first time speaking at an Icon or MapCon event. So ding
I'm
to
excited.
That.
It was like a perfect match alignment with what I believe in is the automation, right? That's my thing, right? It's always been my thing. So, I think it was awesome to be here, to have the opportunity to speak and to sponsor as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Thank you for putting together so many awesome products like not just repurpose.io, which you should totally go take advantage of the 25% discount. Go to repurpose.io/icon. But Simple Video Press, which I use on both of my superjoepardo.com and indiepodcasters.com, as well as Simple Podcast Press, which I've used for a number of years now. I've used Repurpose for a number. When did Repurpose come out? Was it like 2016?
3.5 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I've used it for a while.
I think you were the founding members, or you were soon after. I think you were the founding member. Yeah,
No,
you were
I'm
the
pretty
founding
sure
member.
I don't remember how much it was, but I was like, yes, this sounds awesome, and I love Hani, so I'm gonna say yes.
Love it. Love it.
It's I love it, and I appreciate it. And that's why I love the fact that, look, when you have a problem, like, I reach out to Hani and he gets back to me usually within 12 hours of whenever I'm texting him to tell him know, like, hey, this ain't working the way it's supposed to all of a sudden. And that's gotta be difficult on your part, right? Because you're working with so many different platforms and trying to make them all work, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna change the linkage to YouTube thumbnails. Like, we're just gonna make a change there.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you got to keep up with the platforms. You're right. Like, our whole software is integrating other platforms, your blog, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. So, they make changes, and we try to keep up. They don't make it as frequent, but when they do, things slightly break, and then we're on it. Myself, to get back to the developer team, we're on it. We're on it to fix it. So we've been doing this for a long time. We know how it works. So, like, we know the process. It's not a surprise. If something does change, we're not like freaking out, because we know that's just the nature of our business, our software business.
It is.
And Tim, how you doing, man? The good old days, the good old Blab days.
Yeah. I miss Blab. I miss the connections, but I still have a lot of friends because of Blab that I would have never made otherwise. So I'm super grateful for Blab. And so all right, Hani, I'm gonna get out of your way. You're on the clock for 30 minutes. Are you sharing your screen at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen, talk high level, talk strategy,
Yeah.
and then dive into kind of how
All right,
to automate things.
share your screen here so I can.
Oh yeah, I forgot to
throw
click
it up.
that button. There it is.
Yeah,
Boom,
yeah.
boom, boom. Here we go. All right.
Oh, look at you! You're like a pro.
Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna get out of your way. You're on the clock, sir.
All right, let's do this. So, welcome everybody. My name is Hani Mora. I'm the founder, creator of a software called Repurpose.io, and our motto is create once and publish everywhere. And that's what our software does. It helps you create a single piece of content and helps you slice and dice and convert and do all that boring stuff in an automated way, and we'll also publish it out to multiple platforms for you, including things like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then we have some kind of cool ways to get it automated and scheduled onto Instagram and Instagram TV. So we're going to talk about, I was trying to think, this whole topic of this conference is automation, and that's one thing I love doing. So I wanted to kind of break it down into something concrete. So that's why topic is convert one episode into 28 pieces of content. I know this slide shows 27. I have a different version that I can't seem to find for whatever reason. So I'm showing this one, and I'm going to talk about number 28, which is right in this magic spot here. So let's just jump right in. So we can do this with video, or we can do this with audio content. So everything, I'm going to show it from a podcasting perspective. So I take a single podcast episode, convert it into 28 pieces of content, and get it out there on different social media platforms. But everything I show, I'm not going to have time to go into the video aspect of it, meaning like Joe's doing, he's doing a live stream. You can do the same thing. You can take a live stream or take an uploaded video and turn it into 28 or even more pieces of content as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But I am going to focus on what I think the biggest part of the audience is podcasters, right? Audio content, or you start with audio content. So let's just talk high level. The strategy here is to get the most exposure for your content. So if you have an episode, you release it on, let's say, Monday morning, how do you tell the world about it? Obviously, when you publish your podcast to whatever platform you're publishing on, to Libsyn, Blueberry, whatever podcast host you're using, they automatically get that content out to what we call the podcast directories, right? So they're on Spotify. Your subscribers can listen to it on Apple Podcasts. They can listen to it on Spotify. They can listen to it on, Google Podcasts. So that's already taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. Your podcast hosts have that automated and set up for you. What we're talking about here is how do we get this, either the full episode or little clips of the episode, how do we get them onto social media, right? How do you get them in front of where people are scrolling their phones and they're hanging out, right? Not everybody knows what a podcast. Not everybody knows that Spotify has podcasts. Not everybody knows that there's a podcast app on their phone. So our goal here is to help you get it on social so they learn about your content and then learn that you do have a podcast and they can subscribe to it as well. So again, our focus is social. So let's just start off the top here. I don't know, I'm hoping this is clear, and I'll zoom in a little bit if we need to, but actually I'll zoom right in. So we're going to start with an audio, a piece of content. So this is a single episode, and the strategy is simple. We got to get it on social. So the only way that you can post content on social is video. So the trick here, I don't say a trick, but the strategy here is to convert this audio into a video and post it onto these social media platforms. I know Twitter recently has been experimenting with audio and stuff, and some platforms are starting to tinker with audio, but in general, video is, all these platforms support video, like YouTube, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram TV, etc. So the strategy is this: you take this content and you turn it into a video. So these are just guidelines, right? You can adjust these numbers, tweak it, do slight variations, but my general recommendation is take this audio podcast, get the full episode into a video. I'm going to zoom right in here and get it onto YouTube. That's step number one. Well, again, not in any particular order. I'm just saying step number one because that's what you see in this diagram. So the strategy here is this: you want to get the full episode onto YouTube in a video format. I'm going to dive in a little bit more about how to do this in a few minutes, but let's just stay with me here. So we'll get the full episode and video onto YouTube. Then we want to create clips. So what are clips? Clips are basically like the key takeaways from your podcast. So if you have a podcast and you have a guest, even if you don't have a guest, but let's say you have a guest and, while you're recording or afterwards when you're editing or you're reviewing the content, you want to pull out, I recommend 5, if you can, 5 kind of nuggets or key takeaways of that episode. And all you're doing is just writing down the time. So my suggestion here is you want to take it and listen to the final edited version and, sit through it. I know it's a bit annoying, but sit through it and just listen to it and jot down at least 5, if you can, timestamps or just times, like 1:00, 2:00, and then just a little note, what's the key takeaway? Almost like a quote in a sense. Just what's the value that this guest is saying or you're saying in your show. Write those down, and because what we're going to do is we're going to take the audio, convert it into a video, but to get it onto other social media platforms like Facebooks and Instagram and Twitter, etc. People are not going to, those platforms don't let you upload long form content. Facebook does, but no one's going to sit through an hour on Facebook. So you want to make the clips and share them onto social media. So you're going to just jot down those 5 times. Then you're going to make a clip. I recommend going square and basically turn that 1 to 2 minute piece of audio into a 1 to 2 minute little video with the quote or the key takeaway kind of highlighted on top, like you see here, and share them on to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and then take those same 5 clips and get them onto Instagram TV and Instagram. The catch here is, not the catch, the trick here is you want to get this in vertical format because vertical performs better especially on IGTV. So strategy. And then the last one, which I didn't show here, which I have in another PDF, which I can't seem to find for whatever reason, is to go to your blog. So you want to make a blog post. You want to embed the audio, whether it's an external audio player or you can just copy the embed code from your podcast host and have the audio content on your blog. Make it easy for someone to come to your website and in your email, you send them a link to your website. They come, they click play, they listen. So that's number 28. That's not shown here. So you start with 1, you go to YouTube, that's 2, and then you do 5 clips on each of these platforms plus the blog. That's how you get to 28 pieces of content. So that is the strategy. There's many ways you can accomplish this. And this has been our focus in our software, that's repurpose.io, to help you automate this so you don't have to sit there and, be a video expert, be a video editing expert, and spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours making a square video and then uploading it here, making a vertical video and uploading here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is all can be time consuming. Our goal was, how do we automate creating these videos from audio in these shapes and sizes? And then B, how do we schedule them? And that was a big key thing that I want to emphasize. Is you don't want to be sitting there every day, as something in the back of your mind, like, oh, today I got to log in and upload it to Twitter. Because you don't want to upload all 5 clips on the same day. The goal here is 5 clips to get uploaded one day every week, right? So you have basically content on a daily basis on every platform. So imagine doing that manually. It's tedious. It is tedious. So what I want to, before I jump into how repurpose.io works and how it can save you, I'm just going to stop sharing I'm going to flip back and see if there are any questions. Or maybe Joe can mention if there's any questions that are popping up. If not, I'll just keep going. Yeah, huge time saver. Yes, absolutely. The effort into creating content should go into the creation process, right? The interview or the solo show that you're doing, that's where the effort should be. That's where the value is, because that's what you want to deliver to your audience. All this stuff we're talking about here is time consuming, and it's the value is there, but if it's going to take you 6-7 hours to do this, it's not worth it. But if it's going to take you, 10-15 minutes to set this all up and schedule it, then you're golden, right? So that's what our focus has been always. How do we make the content creator's life easier? And that's what the focus is of our repurpose platform. It's going to help you automate how to make the clips, how to automate scheduling these to go out to multiple platforms on the specific days that you want. So that's what our software can do, and that's what I want to show right now. If there aren't any more questions, I'm going to just show how this all works in the next few minutes. I'm not going to obviously do every single one of these, but I just want to just show you from a high level how the software works. And we also have some training. If you want to sign up for a free trial, there's a training that walks you through step by step on how to get this all automated. So again, quick recap, full episode on YouTube, pull out 5 clips, about 1 to 2 minutes long, and get them on to Instagram TV, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and have 1 go out every day of the week. So you essentially have 5 going out on Monday, 5 going out on Tuesday, 5 Wednesday, 5 Thursday, 5 Friday. 5 meaning, 1 on each platform. So, and just for those who don't post content regularly, you'll see a significant increase in views, and the algorithms for these social media platforms love it when you post regularly. So if you're quiet for a few weeks and then you post a video and you get no views or little views, that's just normal behavior. That's normal algorithm behavior. It's like, okay, this guy's posted once in a while, this girl's posting once in a while, we'll show it, but they're not consistent. But if you're doing this, let's say you have a weekly show and you're posting every day for, your Monday's episode, you have content from Monday to Friday. The next week's episode, you have Monday. So you're literally posting every single day. You're just going to get a lot more traction. The algorithm's going to start noticing, wait a second, there's a lot of content coming out from this user. I'm going to show them more love in the feed and show their content more often, especially if you start getting people liking, commenting, and engaging with your content. Okay, so I'm about halfway down through my time. So we have about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to jump into the software and just walk through how to set this up. So basically our software, for those who haven't seen or used it before, it's a web-based tool. It's really simple to use. First thing you want to do is go to connections and basically connect up all your social media accounts. What that means is I choose Facebook and I say add connection. It pops up to the Facebook login page. I authenticate myself, and then boom, I'm just giving it permission to upload content to Facebook. And you do the same thing for YouTube, for Twitter, for LinkedIn, and Dropbox as well. Wherever you want to read from or send content to. And you also connect your podcast by just adding your podcast feed or your Apple Podcast URL. So these are one-time setup. I'm not going to walk through it because we don't have a lot of time. Again, a training videos if you decide to try our software, we'll walk you through the steps. But this is a one-time setup, connect all your social and your podcast feed. Once you have that, that's when the fun begins. So we call our system, we call these things workflows. So everything you saw here, let's say if you follow the line from here, have a podcast, follow the blue line, convert it into a video and go to YouTube, that's considered one workflow. Take a podcast, convert to a Square video and send to Facebook, that would be a second workflow, etc. You would repeat this third workflow, fourth workflow, fifth workflow. Just one note, since I don't know if you probably noticed why we have Dropbox here in the middle between Dropbox and Instagram, because our platform and Instagram hasn't opened up the capability to upload content directly to IGTV or Instagram. So there's no way our software can directly publish there, but we can have these videos created, these video clips created, sent to your Dropbox. And then Facebook has an amazing tool called the Creator Studio, which lets you schedule content to both Instagram and Instagram TV. So that's our recommendation. Have repurpose sent to Dropbox, and then from Dropbox, you can use and schedule content using the Facebook Creator Studio. It's at facebook.com/Creator Studio. It's a free and an amazing tool. I love that tool. Just because it has scheduling capabilities, that just saves me so much time. Okay, back to the software. So let's make our first workflow. I'm going to say, take this audio, convert it to a video, and send it to YouTube. That would be my first workflow. So I would go in here, say create workflow. I'm just going to give it a name, any name I want, podcast to YouTube. Then I'm going to choose my input type. So I'm going to start with an audio podcast. If you have multiple podcasts, it will show up here. I only have one connected, so that's the podcast, Handy's podcast. And then what's my action? I want to convert the audio into a video. Perfect. That's what I want to do. Do I want to do the full episode or snippets? Since I'm going to YouTube, I'm going to experiment with the full episode. So I'm going to say next. And then the last question is, where do you want to send the video that we're going to create for you? So you're going to tell it, Facebook, Dropbox, etc. I'm going to say YouTube. If I have a playlist, I can pick a playlist, but for this demo, I'm just going to leave it as none and say create workflow. So we haven't published anything. We just made that connection between my podcast, converting it to a video, and to YouTube. So if I go into view episodes, boom, this is my entire podcast right here. So it looks at my podcast feed, it reads all the thumbnails, my episode specific artwork, titles. This is my whole podcast right here. And so this is my latest episode, for example. All I need to do is hit publish. Actually, before I hit publish, all I need to do is hit publish, and all the title, description, everything shows up here. There's a bunch of things you can set up. I don't want to dive deep into it because there's a lot of settings. We have a user guide, we have training videos. But the idea is this: you pick it, you can tweak the description here if you wanted to. Otherwise, it reads the description directly from your podcast host. And you hit publish now. If you want it to go now, you can hit schedule. So you can schedule it to go out, let's say, tomorrow or Monday morning. And you just say go. Boom. It goes in, it makes a video, and it gets scheduled. So I'm gonna hit schedule for tomorrow just so you can let it do its thing. You're probably wondering what a video looks like. We're making a video out of an audio. So what does it look like? You would go into settings, and we have a bunch of templates you can choose from, or you can even design your own template and upload it. And real quick, just to show you what a template looks like, it looks something like this. We have a moving waveform, like an audio waveform that comes added automatically. We automatically insert the title into your video. We automatically pull in the artwork for your guest or your podcast artwork directly into here. And then everything else you see is the template. So you can design your own template and upload it. brand it the way you want, the colors, everything that you want. Or you can choose one of ours and just use that as well. All right, so you can customize the color. There's a bunch of fun settings. You can do a progress bar, wave. There's a lot of cool settings. I'm not going to dive into it, but that's the idea. Pick a template, tweak the settings, and basically hit publish. So it's publishing. Let's see. Okay, boom. It's already scheduled. So it's scheduled to go for tomorrow. So if I want to preview what it looks like, why don't we just do that right now? Let's see. This should be a pretty short episode, so it shouldn't take long to pull up the preview. There it is. So we got video, like in 2 clicks, I have a video of my entire podcast episode. Scheduled, ready to go to YouTube tomorrow morning. Simple as that. So that's how we made the full episode. That's easy, that's simple. The next step, if you wanted to not schedule content, like if you want it to be even fully automated, you can turn this button on so that every time you put a video onto your podcast, every time you upload a podcast episode, it automatically goes to YouTube right away, like within an hour or so. So you can set it up that way if you want, by just turning on this button here. Cool. I'm going to just show you how to do the clips really quick, because that's really where it takes a bit of time, but I'm going to show you how that saves you a ton of time when you do it with Repurpose. And then I'm going to turn off my screen share and then answer questions. I'm going to try to do this in the next 2 minutes, and then I'm happy to answer questions and go more into that kind of stuff. So we did this one, so I would make another one. Let's say if we look back at our PDF, let's say I'm going to make a clip that goes to Twitter. Let's say I'm going to do that. So I want to make a square clip that sends it automatically to Twitter. I would make a new workflow. I would say podcast to Twitter, or whatever name I want to give it. So I would say this time I'm going to start with my audio podcast, convert audio to video. Yep. Full episode. No, I'm going to say snippets. Next. And then where do I want to send it? This time I'm going to Twitter. Perfect. I say Twitter. So now it's making the workflow. So again, it's not publishing anything. It's just making the workflow. If I say view episodes, you're going to notice something interesting here. You're going to notice, hey, here are all my episodes, just like before, but you're going to notice these things. So what are these things? These are the timestamps that I already picked out for my episode, and I put them into my show notes page on my podcast host. So for example, I was using Libsyn for this demo. When I published my episode on Libsyn, all I did was this. In my description, I just put a time, 30 seconds. I talk about one video equals 30 pieces of content. At the 1 minute mark, I talk about this. So that's all I did, is just text in my description. When I did this, when I published my episode on my podcast host, whether Blueberry, Libsyn, whatever you're using, it doesn't matter. You put that in here. And then when you use Repurpose, it's like, oh, I see timestamps. I'm just going to prepare the clips for you automatically. And then you can set the default duration. By default, I think it's just under 2 minutes, 139 seconds. Oh, for Twitter, it's 139 seconds. For different platforms, we have different limits, but I can change this. If I only want a 30-second clip, I just change it to 30 seconds and it adjusts automatically. So that's cool. So that is the biggest time-saving tip I can give you. If you watch your content before you publish it on your podcast host, take the time to pull out 5 key takeaways, write them into your description, and then with our software, you just save yourself hours of creating clips. So these clips are ready to go. I can just say hit publish. I can tweak the title if I wanted to, the description. I can just say schedule this one for tomorrow. Oh, sorry, this one is going to go out tomorrow. Schedule. This one will go out the next day, etc. So I didn't have to make the clips. The clips were made for me because I put the timestamps. Now, if you're not doing timestamps in your description, it's not a problem. You just hit the scissor icon. It loads up your audio. And you can just slide this around like this and like this. Why didn't it let me slide it? There we go. I can move this around. I can listen to a little clip here. I can even zoom in if I want to get really granular and pick the clip I want. And if I like it, I can just say create snippet and it will make that clip for me right here. And I can do the same thing and schedule it. So if you really want to be automated, you want to go in and do that on your podcast host. Put the timestamps and the title that you want to show up in the video. If you are not doing that, not a problem. You can still go in here and create your 5 clips from inside our software. And that is the quick lowdown. And then I would make another one, for example, to go to Facebook. I would create a new workflow, podcast to Facebook. Another one for LinkedIn. And then when I want to do things to Instagram and Instagram TV, like I mentioned earlier, you send them to your Dropbox folder. And then you can grab them from there and then use this tool called Facebook Creator Studio. I highly recommend it. It's a free tool. It's just go to facebook.com/creator studio. You connect your Instagram account and then you can just make a post. I can make a post for my Instagram TV or Instagram feed. Let's say I'm going to upload it to IGTV. I drag the video here and then I can do the same thing. I can say schedule. So I can have content going out every single day for the entire week to promote my episode. All right, I'm going to come back here and stop sharing. And happy to answer any questions or discuss anything. I tried. I know I went quick, but this is what I wanted to kind of give you a bird's eye view and then give you some ways to even automate further. So Steven's asking, what do you post to LinkedIn also? Yeah. Oh, what you also post to LinkedIn? Yes, we post to LinkedIn. The limitation is, yes, I'm confusing myself. Yeah, you can post to LinkedIn. It has to be company page. So you can't post to your profile. You can post to a LinkedIn company page. Now, I know most people don't have a LinkedIn company page. And this limitation is LinkedIn's limitation, not ours. They don't allow people to automate to their personal profile. But we have a cool little checkbox in our settings such that when you upload the video to your company page, you turn on a checkbox and you say, hey, share that post from my company page to my personal profile so all my followers see it. So we have that ability to directly upload to a company page and then share to your personal LinkedIn feed. So the direct upload, like our platform can go direct to YouTube, direct to Facebook, pages or groups. It can go direct to Twitter, direct to LinkedIn company pages with the option to share from company page to your personal feed automatically. And then we have Dropbox or Google Drive so that you can just send the video there in square and vertical, whatever dimensions you want. And then you can upload it to any other platform. Pinterest. Pinterest, people are saying Pinterest is really hot. So you can, make little videos, put them on Pinterest. TikTok, if that's still around, you could take that video, put it on TikTok as well. So you can have that video, either the full episode or the small clip, sent to your Dropbox or Google Drive to do whatever you want with it. All right. Man, I feel like I talked so fast, but that was awesome. I love this stuff.
It happens. It happens. Did you have a clock in front of you? Because you get about a little over 3.5 minutes left.
Yeah, I'm just looking at just a computer clock. But yeah. So, and the last thing I didn't talk about is going to your blog. We do have a WordPress plugin that just pulls in content, it reads your RSS feed and makes a blog post automatically for you. So that's something we also have as well available. So I know I talked fast. I know automation, part of repurpose, but even if you're not using repurpose, to be honest, you can still pull this off, right? So the idea is to get this content. The whole idea is to get this content in front of as many people as you can using on social media. So.
No, absolutely. One thing I wanted to point out, because I was like, I think that was the case, but I wasn't sure. You have sponsored a MapCon event going back into 2015. Do you recall that?
With Simple
So this
Podcast
was a
Press, maybe.
yeah. So
Okay, okay.
this was a banner
Oh
that was
wow.
made up for the first ever MapCon 1, that
Oh
took place in a
wow.
school gymnasium in South Jersey,
Okay,
and
I totally forgot about that one. And
right.
that was
So
way back, man.
yeah, I kind of forgot about it too, and I was like, I think he did, and yeah. So this was the banner that was hung up in the wall
Sweet.
in the school, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we've known each other for a long time.
apparently yes. I mean, time is just flying by. It is crazy, man. It is
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
Well,
crazy.
I'm happy to know you, and I'm happy to be using Simple Podcast Press, Simple Video Press, and Repurpose. I didn't even realize that you could do that with the timestamps. That I
That's
might actually
huge.
utilize that in on my free ride Fridays, where we talk, like I do Q&A, so like I'm answering a bunch of questions, so like I could just like take my trusty pen and write down some timestamps, and then you just write. Can you show that real quick again? Like, so you just write out the timestamps with a title, or just write out the timestamps in general?
Yeah, you do. I would do timestamps and then a short title, a short like description. And the reason is that becomes the title that we use in here in the video itself. So it saves you time from like editing every video. So
Yeah.
when you're in repurpose, the clips are this will be the title of this video. This will be the title of that video. This will be the title of that video.
Wow.
And if you're not using this, like, sorry, if you're not doing this in your show notes, like in your, Libsyn, Blueberry, wherever you're hosting, that's okay. You can still go into repurpose. Like I showed here, you can click this button and make your own clip that starts and ends at a specific time. But I mean, that's still a huge time saving, but the biggest time saving, especially if you're doing one to Twitter, one to Facebook, one to LinkedIn, you don't want to keep doing this every time, right? You do it
Yeah.
once here on your podcast host, and then boom, it's there in repurpose. For every time you make a workflow, it's automatically there.
I think one of the other biggest things that maybe people don't think about when they're like, "Oh, I should totally, do this," is if you like, and as a content creator that does a lot in the video space, which I've this week I've been kind of lacking here, in doing, you know, uploading the same video twice is not fun on most people's connections unless you have Fios that goes like 100 megabits a second. It could take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to upload like a 20-minute video. And having to do that to Facebook and then to YouTube, and then if you want to upload it natively, clips of it to LinkedIn, and you want to upload it natively to blah blah blah, like all those things. It just eats up so much more time to have that bandwidth. So, having repurpose, like, it's on their end, they're handling it. They're gonna upload it at whatever
Yeah.
speed, whenever it gets done. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. But the point being is one less thing that A, you have to worry about, and B, have to sit there and wait for that stuff to upload. And meanwhile, it's like your whole connection might be saturated, your whole upload connection. So it's like, oh, I need to upload this photo. Oh, and I need to upload the MP3 to here. And now it's going to take me twice as long because I'm doing like 3 uploads at once, and I only have a 10 megabit connection.
Yeah, that's a great point. Everything's handled on our servers. You don't have to upload anything to us. We read from your podcast feed. If you're doing video stuff, you can put a video in Dropbox. We can grab it from there. We can take a Facebook Live from Facebook. So the idea is we're grabbing data from here and putting it there, and your computer can be off and you can be out on vacation. Well, in backyard vacation, you can't go anywhere now, but you know what I mean. You could be away from your computer, spending time with your family, and this thing is just scheduling it, uploading on a certain day, and there's no bandwidth or CPU usage or anything nothing's happening on your end. It's all happening on our servers.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I love doing everything through StreamYard, because it goes to Facebook Live and it goes to YouTube, and then it goes out to using Repurpose, goes out to where it needs to go out to. So it's one of those things. It's like, as soon as I'm done, like, okay, everything for the most part is going to take care of it. I just need to download the MP3 file. Like, I download the video and the MP3 file for archival purposes, and then I upload the MP3 to my to my website once the post gets there from YouTube. So it goes to, from Facebook to YouTube, and I'll talk about all this later because I'm going to be speaking later, explaining how my process of going daily with the IndiePod Daily Show is, and a large part of that is thanks to your tools, Hani.
Nice, man. That's awesome. I love it. That's what we're here for, man. I love automation. I'm a geek. I'm lazy. That's why we build these things. Well, we've been building this for I think it's been 7 years total with the plugins, automation now repurposed, been almost 4 years, 3.5 years old. Yeah. I hope the people watching this now, watching the replay, get the juices flowing. That's the idea. Look at that picture I said in the beginning. Just get the juices flowing. How do I promote my content on social media, on my podcast content? And if you're looking for a way to automate or repurpose, we have a free trial. You can try it for free, and you can repurpose.io/icon, and then you get 25% off. Our prices are ridiculously low. Literally, I think it's $15 or $25 a month, depending which plan. Then you get the discount on top of that. So what you're paying per month, the value and time saving is priceless.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Hani. I need super claps in the chat for Super Hani Mar. Woo! Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, man, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you again for sponsoring and taking time to speak on a Saturday.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here. Bye, everyone.
Of course. Take care, Hani. All right. So please put those super claps in the chat for Super Hani Mora. Man, I feel so off my game because this whole ear thing. It's driving me up a wall. I have a big announcement coming later, a little bit later. I'll probably make it after our next speaker here about the next free live virtual conference that we'll be doing. It's a topic that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about, according to our poll in the IndiePod community. If you're not in the IndiePod community, go to indiepodcasters.com/group. Also, if you want to say thank you to Hani, if you want to say thank you to me, if you want to say thank you to Hani, please go to repurpose.io/icon. That would be a huge thank you as well. And shoot That Suits You some donation money, because we are still trying to raise some money for That Suits You. Learn more about them and what they do over at indiepodcasters.com/TSY. And so our next one other thing I announced this week, that if you hadn't heard, that we are featuring indie podcasters from the Icon community, thanks to grabalisten.com. I can't believe it wasn't registered. It's insane, but it wasn't registered. And Sam Sprunger, when I was working with him on Training Thursday, he slept on it. He didn't go and register, and I told him, hey, if you don't register this by tomorrow, I'm gonna go take it. And guess what? I took it. And then thanks to Susan Chase, she was like, oh, well, you could use that to highlight indie podcasters in the community. I'm like, oh man, that makes so much sense. Let's make it happen. So go to grabalisten.com and you can fill out the form, and we'll be featuring one podcast a week to help bolster the community, hopefully send some more traffic to the website, and so I'm looking forward to that. I have some more things to talk about in a little bit, but this time I'm going to bring on our next speaker, who is speaking on the topic of my automation journey. It's kind of how I'm going to be talking. It's kind of what what I'll be talking about a little bit later today. But I think each person has their own process and the way that they're handling their content and all of that. So at this time, I need super claps in the chat for Super Dr. Stephen Green. Woo! What is going on, Dr. Stephen Green?
I am here. Believe me, my talk will not be nearly as advanced as yours.
I don't know how advanced mine will be, but you what you sent me, it seemed pretty impactful. I think it's
listen. One time I went skiing, and I'm not a good skier. We were going up the lift, and we saw these people had the most beautiful ski suits, all matching. A whole family had all matching suits. I said they must be the greatest skiers on the mountain. Hey, I think they made it 20 feet without falling down. Sometimes, it's looking good is half the battle, but you still got to deliver.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to share your screen here, and I'm going to get out of your way here on the
There
clock
we
for
go.
30
My
minutes, sir.
automation journey. This is it. Yeah. All right. Hey, great talk there, Han. I love that stuff. I'm gonna sign up. Let me switch over here so I can manipulate this. All right, everybody. What I'm going to try to talk about today is how I take my content and a little bit like what Hani was talking about, taking it and turning it into multiple streams. It's not nearly as efficient as the way he presented what the tool can do. What I want to show you really more is like a workflow situation. And my goal, I really have two goals. One is because this helped me really consolidate my thinking, and I want to be able to convey that to the listening audience here. But the second piece is I've been in podcasting about 11 months. I'm not a super long veteran of this, so everything I learned here took me about that long to do. So if I can save anybody out there even a week, a couple hours, a month, just making it through the grunt work, I feel like I did something. So I'm Steve Green. There's my email. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me offline and just talk about whatever, I'd welcome that. I enjoy that kind of conversation and interaction. I have a business called Make the Grade. I am a full-time in education and tutoring and academic support space. So I was a teacher. I'm a private tutor. I'm an author of a book called Maximum Education. I've, like I said, been podcasting 11 months now. I just put out episode 76, so that's a big number here in Philadelphia. I also am the curator of an online membership community called the Make the Grade Success Community, and my podcast, not surprisingly, is called the Make the Grade Podcast. So I'm going to give you a little history of how this all happened. Being in education, I had a website, probably like every business does, and my big thing was blogging and writing and article writing. And what I would do is I would write a really long article, like 1,200, 2,000 words, and break it up into 2 or 3 blog posts, and then do my best to try to get the blog posts out there. And I did that for several years. I had hundreds and hundreds of blog posts. And when the podcasting came along, I viewed it, the podcasting, as a way to kind of bring my blogging to life. And a lot of my early podcasts were, in a sense, me just verbalizing and talking about the blogs. So this is sort of in the beginning. Phase 1, I had written something, turned it into a podcast, which was basically me talking about it. That became the episode topic. And then I tried, in addition to posting it to all the podcast places, try to put it out to social media. And the idea was I took the big idea, the podcast maybe 15, 12 minutes long, and I would try to turn that into a lot of sound bites and a lot of quotes. And I got to be honest, I was getting okay engagement. I wasn't getting great engagement, but it flattened out. I got to a point and it just stayed there, and it wasn't really going up or down. So I figured I'd reached my audience. I wasn't really growing. I wasn't losing traction, but I wasn't reaching anybody new. I figured I had to do something different. And what my answer was, I wanted to get feedback. I wanted to get feedback from people who were interested in what I was doing. In my case, education, but I believe this would apply equally pretty much to any genre, or any topical place. So my way to do it was through the community. Every podcast I do, every blog post I do goes into the community. So do all the micro content that comes with it. And I do a lot of polling in the community. Like Joe did a poll about topics that people were interested in podcasting, and we'll learn about at some point. I did the same thing. And now phase 2, and I developed this roughly in about April of this year. It was this. This is my feedback loop. So I would create an idea, which would become the podcast and the blog, although I don't really have the blog on here. That would become the topic. Now in the community, I got feedback. And the feedback, when it told me really what were the good ideas, what were the bad ideas, what ideas had traction, what ideas did people want to hear more about. And this is where things really started to grow. The engagement doubled or tripled within about 6 weeks, which got me kind of more pumped up to create more stuff. And it's led to this, which I'm calling phase 3. And I spoke a few times in this presentation about engagement and things like this. And this is really where it is right now. I have the podcast and the topic and all the social media on the top. And then this is the way I engage. And ultimately, the things in the yellow are ways I'm able to monetize the whole process, which is nice. It's a labor of love, and I do it to support my business. But I also enjoy communicating, but at some point, it's nice to have something come back. So you could ask the question, what does all this have to do with automation? And that's what led to this. So this is, as I was talking before, it hopefully looks like maybe pretty impressive. But what I want to try to do really is try to explain and break down what's going on this chart. If anybody wants a copy, I would be happy to send it to you. I don't have it set up on a site or anything where you could download it, but I'd be happy to email it to you if you want to reach out. But anyway, it pretty much reads left to right. So it starts over on the left in the orange box with an idea, concept, a flash of brilliance, some sort of incredible epiphany. That's the result, if we go back to here, of the feedback. Okay? So that's where it starts right here. And I take that idea and I'm going to turn it into sometimes all 5, but sometimes some combination of these green trapezoids. So the idea will go into my email list, go into the podcast, go into the live stream, go into blog posts, in some cases go into courses that I develop in varying degrees. And this is not, I guess we're using the term automation loosely here because this is really more of a workflow. Some of these can happen automatically. Some are really manually done. Love the whole repurpose.io concept. And there's some things I can talk about towards the right side of this. But the idea is this is where it starts. The green over here, the green trapezoids, and these are the tools I use to do it. So all of these are available. None of them are free, but most of them aren't that expensive, but it adds up over time. So I use Aweber for my email. Aweber has some really great automated systems where you can set up all kinds of autoresponders and things like that. So I may take a blog post, for example, or video clips or audio clips from the podcast, break it up into 3 or 4 emails over the course of a week or two, and then people would get them on my lists over time. That's one example. The podcast, I usually record in either Zoom or StreamYard. For now, anyway, I use Blueberry. Thank you, Blueberry, to post it up. That now I have my native files, MP4s, MP3s, which you can use big time down the road. The live streaming, I do a lot of live streaming. I always do that in StreamYard. That, again, also creates the audio files. The blog posts I do in WordPress. I use Google Analytics. I guess most people do who have sites. That creates text files. And my courses, I'm using Thinkific. So the blue squares or rectangles here are the tools. So you can see on here, there's a lot of tools I'm using. I've tried to streamline this, but I haven't been able to find one tool that does everything you want. You got to kind of pick and choose here and there, and you got to learn how to use them unless you're going to outsource it. But in summary, everything up to this triangle is large or macro content. So my idea, based on the feedback, turns into email series, podcasts, live streams that support the podcast and the emails, actually, blog posts, and courses I develop, which are usually video and audio based. I take this, and this is where the repurposing comes in this second purple triangle. And these are the tools I'm using to repurpose. And when I say repurpose, in my definition, I'm taking the large, long form things like a 1,500 word blog post or a 12-minute podcast and breaking it into 15, 30, 60, maybe 120-second chunks. And then these are the tools I'm using there. Some of them I have and I use some more than others. But for video, I use a program called ScreenFlow, which is Mac-based. Camtasia would probably be the equivalent in Windows. I use something called InVideo Videos and Presscable. I'm trying to settle on which one I'm going to keep. But they all basically can take the native video, which I'm producing in the podcast and the live streams, and turn it into smaller clips, editable clips. I use Canva, or Canva, as I've heard it called also. Great program to do cover art, graphics, easy stuff. I use Headliner, although my subscription is running down, and I think I'm going to replace this right here with Repurpose. But the point is that it enables me to make the vertical and square sound bites. I use a program called Loyal Patron, which really I don't know a lot of podcasters using, but it's a customer loyalty program where people would sign up and automatically they get dripped all kinds of stuff. It interfaces with the email and with text messaging. And then, of course, I have the usual social media. And all this produces what I call micro content, which is small pieces that came from the macro content. Then these are all the places I put it. And not everything goes everywhere, and not every idea becomes everything. But this is basically the idea. The one at the top, my Google business page, we don't hear that talked about a lot, at least in my experience in the podcast community. But don't let go of it. It's a free, if you have a business, and you have to have a street address, but it's a free service. It's basically getting a free web page that's Google based, which means you're plugged into all their advertising and marketing and analytics. And you can enhance it. If anybody wants to learn more about this, I'll talk about it offline, by becoming what they call Google Local Guide. But I post it up there. You got to do it manually. I don't know any way to automate that, but I get a lot of business through my Google page like that. So all the content can go in there. Of course, Facebook, you can track that through the Facebook Pixel. And if you're not doing that, you really should. Great tracking tool to enable you to remarket to people, especially if you're running ads. Instagram, YouTube. I use a service there called TubeBuddy, it does a lot of stuff analytically, helps with tags. You can do a ton of research. What are hot, popular tags? What are popular topics people are using? LinkedIn, Twitter, email, text messaging. And really the ones I think get underutilized are the Google business page, email, and text messaging. Because text messaging and email obviously aren't social media, but they're also your audience. In my case, I have about 950 emails in my system, and I let them know what I do. I just had a podcast that just come out. Take a listen. I text message a lot of people because I converted a lot of my client base would rather hear from me from text messaging than email. And same thing. I put the links in there. And then you can get stats on both of them. So I use Aweber, same one as over here in the email to get the stats there. And text messaging, I use the Loyal Patron, which is this program I use to deliver that. So the stats are super valuable because, for example, let's say I send an email and it has a link to the, I usually put 2 or 3 links in, one to the full podcast, one to a shorter soundbite, let's say 30 seconds, and then one just to my website in general. Find out more about what I do, or if you want to sign up for something, or if you want to learn about my virtual events or what have you, or my live streams. And you can tag them. So if somebody clicks on, let's say, the link for the full podcast, I can sort those people out. So of the 950 people, I can say I want to find the tag for the ones that wanted to listen to the full podcast, and I can send them an email, just them, that subgroup, let's say it's 20 or 30 people, whatever it happens to be, and say, hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Love it. Hope you learned something out of it. What was your favorite piece of it? And I always ask the question because I'm always asking for feedback. What did you think? And it loops back around to this constant search that I have for feedback from my audience, because I have found that the more in touch I am with what my audience wants to listen to, the more engagement I get. And it expands my business because people share the ideas much more than when it's just stuff I think is important, which is a lesson I kind of had to learn the hard way. I'll be honest. My first 20 or 30 podcasts were really well produced, and they sounded good. The content was good, but they just weren't on mark with what people wanted to hear. At least not specifically at that moment. So I know that isn't really talking about automation, but what I would say is this: if you're going to go to all the trouble and invest all the time and all the money into all these utilities, and most of them are 15 a month, 12 a month, 20 a month, none of them are going to break you. But when you start adding up all of them, it does add up. But if you're going to go to all that investment of capital and all that investment of time to get everything over here in the white hexagons and analyze it, you'd like to think that it's promoting your brand, it's building your brand, and it's getting where you want to be. And that's why I think having a clear, duplicatable workflow that you can automate as much as you can is just so valuable. And you can scale this as much as you have to. And just to repeat, I don't do every single thing on this chart with every piece of content that I have. I do it with some, and I do it with things that are really important. Like I'm doing my own virtual event in September for education, and I want everybody to know about that. I want that to be front and center. I want that to be a big thing. I'm not as concerned about, a particular piece of information in a podcast in any given week that has the same level of critical importance to me. So this is the big, beautiful slide. I hope everybody appreciates it. Let me see. Sorry. So let me go back here. So this is just some stuff I'll throw in here. How do you stay topical? How do you know your listeners are interested in what you're podcasting? And the key is most of the stuff is outgoing. Podcasts, social, it pretty much goes out, and we hope we get engagement coming back. And the key is I'm just saying it. I just engage with them. I ask them flat out, I need help. Please help me. Tell me what you want. Can you communicate with me? Give me some feedback. The questions you ask your audience are key. If you just say, what do you like to listen to? You might not get much, but if you say, I'm planning an episode and I'm not sure if I should do it about the effect of COVID on the possibility of not going back to school in September, or whatever, what the government thinks about such and such, and you get people to choose a binary decision, much, much more effective. So sometimes asking the right questions is really important too. This is what I ask them about. What are they interested in? Is it a timely thing? Is that topic niche or too niche or not niche enough? Is it worth repeating? I've often done series of things. My most recent podcast was a series of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do they have suggestions for people that they'd like to have me interview? I recently interviewed the superintendent of schools in my school district because people wanted to hear what he had to say. And I called him up. I said, listen, I've got a lot of listeners in the township. People would like your opinion, would be willing to come on my podcast. I said, sure. So just don't ask me certain things. Some things are, sensitive, but it's also helped me develop partnerships and joint ventures. And I probably should have added another slash after joint ventures for sponsors. And it also just helps me to engage. I get personal experiences. Did you listen to the podcast and did you use it or any of the social, and how did it help you? So just here's some opportunities. If you have a community, engage with it, or on your social media. You've got a website most likely hosting your podcast. Use that to get feedback. Obviously, we're all using our social, but don't sleep on the email and the messaging and the direct ways to get to people. I think some people I've talked to just kind of almost put that as an aside and just sort of throw stuff out there and aren't using that as a marketing tool as well as they might. And of course, you got everything else, and everybody kind of specializes in certain things. So this is the my big phase 3 slide again. And this is how it all kind of comes together. The automation happens mostly at the top. The engagement and the community building happens in the middle. And when I can do it, which fortunately is often enough, the monetization is in the yellow at the bottom. And it all comes together and it works for me. And as I said in the very beginning, this took me a while to develop, close to a year. And I'll be honest, I made some mistakes. I kind of went down the wrong path here and there because I just had to try different things. So if any of this can help anyone streamline things or get a clearer picture of what they want to try to do, which is my hope, then I feel like this was worthwhile. So here's the big chart again. I'm coming up to a wrap up in a second. I'm not even sure where I am time-wise, Joe. But if you want to connect with me, and I love to just talk all things, whatever. You want to talk about education, you want to talk about podcasting, you want to talk about social media, you want to talk about wine drinking, whatever you want to talk about, hit me up, sgreen@makethegrade.net, or check out my website. I'll throw out there, I am scheduling podcast guests for August, September, and October. Anybody would like to reach my audience, keep that in mind as well. So I really can't see if there's any questions. I apologize. Maybe there are. But that's all I have for today. I'll throw this up here until Joe comes back on, and we'll roll from there. So maybe he's taking care of you. I had a terrible.
Hey,
earache.
I'm here.
Oh, there
I'm
you
here.
are. I was thinking maybe you were getting your earache medicine.
Yeah, I probably should take it
I had a
soon.
terrible earache. I think I told you this when we first started doing one of the classes for like 6 months. I got it
Yeah.
from swimming, and it just would not go away.
I hope
Horrible.
that's not the case here.
Well, you probably, unlike me, just refused to go to a doctor, and had it get worse and worse and worse till I couldn't sleep, and then I finally I had to do like a telemedicine, and like, can you really do this? Don't you have to stick one of those things in my ear with a little light and all? And they gave me some antibiotic eardrops, and I actually cleared it up. Cleared it up pretty
I went
well.
and got eardrops yesterday from Rite Aid, but I kind of wish I had the. I wish I could. I might have to if it doesn't clear up in a day or so. I probably will. This is only like day 2.
It took about me in my case 4 or 5 days to really go away. Yeah, with the,
Oh, wow.
with the strong stuff. But anyway, enough about earaches. Hopefully,
right.
yours will go away, and we'll get Super Joe back with the capital S here.
I know. I'm hoping. I mean, I'm here. We're doing it. We're going. We're going. What 5.5 hours today? 6
there you
hours.
go. All right.
So still in it. Still doing it. But yeah, man, it would feel so much better. We have a few minutes, so if anybody has any questions about the process that Steven has laid out here for his show, mine will just be me talking. I'm actually kind of regretting that I decided to wanted
Tell you,
to
what, I
talk
can
to them.
remake this slide and put Indie PodCon or Super Joe. Take out Make the Grade and put your name there if you want. I'll send it to you. Nobody will notice. I doubt.
Well, thank you, Steven. I'm just gonna walk people through the process of like doing a daily show, and speaking of which, I still need to go live later
See,
today
the
in
difference,
the
the
group.
difference is you create so much content. You have so much new stuff all the time that if you don't keep up with it, you're just going to get buried really quickly, right? I mean, I'm doing 1 or 2 podcasts a week and 1 blog a week, and they're on the same topic. So even that's hard to keep up with. So unless you start outsourcing it or something, I can totally relate to how much work you're needing to do.
Well, it's not as much work as you might think, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Using the right tools to make it so that it's not as much work, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Even though my right ear is just killing me. This morning I could barely walk. I was like, I guess my equilibrium was all kinds of
Yeah, that
screwed up,
can
and I
have
was
you get
tired.
vertigo. It get nasty.
Oh no, don't wish that on me.
No, I
I've
wish
had
I'm
that.
just saying you can get there.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get there. That's terrible. The vertigo is. I've had it once. I had it. I got my gallbladder taken out, so I was missing some time at work, and then this is when I was working at HopeWorks. So I took 2. I thought I was gonna be better after like a week, and I wasn't. So then I took 2 weeks off, and then ultimately started to have vertigo on the end of the second week, and ended up taking like an extra week off on top of that, because I couldn't even look at the screen. I was just felt sick every time I looked at the screen.
Well, hopefully it won't be so bad.
I don't think it will. I can kind of feel it draining a little bit, even though there's not like fluid like gushing out of my ear or anything. Not to get not to get all, too TMI, but I do feel like there's like something going on in there. It's not just a constant pressure, which is good. I'm happy that at least.
Well, you know what
it's
I think will
moving.
make you feel better?
What's that?
Announcing the topic for the next event.
Ding, ding,
I
ding,
think
ding,
if there's
ding,
anything
ding.
that cheers Joe up here. If anything can cheer Joe up, it's an announcement of a virtual event, right?
Yeah, and there's it's a perfect amount of time too, because we had a few, we're ahead of schedule just by like a little bit, so it's good for me to announce it. So it has come, it's been brought up in the group. I asked like, hey, what does everybody want to what topics would you like to hear stuff about? And here, turns out people really want to hear about our next topic that we're going to be talking about in 2 weeks. July 25th will be the event day. Of course, it's 2 weeks from today. Speaker submissions open up tomorrow, though probably later today after I get done. I'll probably just go in because now I've automated the process a little bit easier, made it easier so that all I have to do is just, like you just automate that process to make it really quick and easy for me to like switch over to the next one for the most part. And that is SEO for podcasting. So I'm going to be looking for anybody who's got SEO tips, tricks, and other things to bring. Was that claps in the back? Is that cheering in the background? Oh yeah, there you go. Well, I got cheers too now. Like, though my cheers are like way loud. I don't know. I'm not sure
when
why.
you got the toys, you got to use them sometime.
Right? Yeah. No, definitely. Is that still? That's still loud. No, still loud. Nope, still loud. Is it loud to you, or is it? Oh, it might just be because I'm on the. Yeah, it might just.
SEO.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's not that loud. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So SEO for podcasting is the next topic. I'm looking forward to it because like there's so many things. I think like one of the big questions that have been thrown around after I remember I asked Todd Cochran about this was, do you still need to do ID3 tags? Is that for any kind of SEO purposes? And I know Dave Jackson had posted about some things this past week, actually, oddly enough, talking about the same thing. Like, are ID3 tags still a thing? And I think the answer is pretty unequivocally, mostly they're not really necessary. They're not going to help you get SEO, any better SEO for your show. Which is good because a lot of people were like, I had mostly automated that process to like a saved XML file. So I just import that, type in the podcast episode name. But now that and I'll talk about this later today. But now that I'm mostly, going daily with the IndiePod Daily, like there isn't time for that. Like, you know how long it takes to import an hour-long clip into Audacity so I can export it, or use another app to, even though I have.
As long as it takes to record it.
Yeah, well, but it's not that long. For me, it's not that long, but yeah, it definitely is. It definitely takes too. It takes too long. I just want to like get the file and upload it, and then the only time I try to change that process is if the file is too large. So basically, if I go over an hour, the file that comes from StreamYard is just a little too big for me to upload right to my website. So it's like 70 megs or something, and I think like the cap is like 65 or something, where it's like it'll show that it's going and then it won't. So I'll throw it in Audacity and then remix it down to like 95 to 120 kbs file per kbps per second file, and then it'll drop it from like say 75 megs down to like 45 megs. Bam, upload it and call it a day. So but it's like an extra like 6-minute process for me to do that. Like I'm not trying to, if it's not instantaneous, or even like, you have all these core. I have a 12 core computer, so it should be super fast, but Audacity is not, and I'm not willing to pay for Audition just to like change over audio files. And sadly, I can't do it in Handbrake, which would utilize the whole computer. So there's like another app I had that does that too, but I don't know.
It can't be. It seems like such a common issue. Somebody has a solution.
Well, most people don't want you to re-encode an MP3. Once an MP3 is an MP3, you don't want to really re-encode it. But I don't really have a choice with the way I host, and so it just is what it is. But I only have to do that maybe once or twice a week, so it's not a big deal. So most of my episodes are under an hour.
That's one thing as soon as I figure out, it changes. As soon as I figure out what SEO I need, they change the algorithm, and I'm right back where I started.
Yeah,
that's
what content
nice graphic you had too.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to try something a little bit different here.
Who's that handsome guy in the green suit? Isn't that Todd Cochran next to me?
Is that is
That's him, isn't it?
That is Steven. That's Stephen Green and Todd Cochran right next to you.
My buddy
Yeah.
Todd, right? See? We're talking about Blueberry, right?
Yeah.
Picture is being taken.
Tim Gillis says,
Not to name
good
drop,
topic.
I mean, just By the way.
So Tim says, "Oh, good. I have a good topic. I have speech on. I have a speech on SEO. Some extraterrestrial is outside. Some extraterrestrial. Oh, is outside. Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you. I didn't reach fast enough for my. I think yeah, there's mine there. No, that's great, Tim. I'm looking forward to it. I think SEO is it's a huge thing. But at the end of the day, like content is king, right? Writing out the content is super powerful, and I mean I have plenty of posts that have gone to the top of Google searches and stuff like that, thanks to taking the time to do it. So I and that's one of the things, like, so from my perspective, and I'll talk more about this at the in when I talk later today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, is I need to do a better job of doing more writing. Whether it's in my emails, whether it's in my on my websites, whether it's writing scripts for this new, I don't know if you saw, but I sort of announced a new YouTube channel that I'm launching, maybe launching.
That's what you need.
Soon.
Another place to have to post.
Yeah, but no, this is different though. Like this, this is the case of quality over quantity. That's what this experiment, this channel is going to be about. It's going to be about tech. So if you like tech, this is going to be a channel that's not going to get too deep in the weeds of the specs, but I don't want to give too much away. But it's going to be different. I think it's going to be different. It's going to be enough different that I think a lot of people are going to resonate with it. And who knows, maybe it'll take off. And
what happens with the tech, I think, for most people is you start out simple and then you open that rabbit hole, and once you get one thing that's better, you got to get all the matching components with it. You get a better mixing board, and you need a better mic, and then you need a better better processor, and then the whole thing spirals out of control, and your wife starts screaming at you, "How much money did this cost?"
Yeah, right. I know,
because she's very understanding.
No, she is very understanding. She's overly understanding, and it kind of goes back. We set those expectations early on. That's for sure.
I tried to. That was an argument I still haven't won, but I'm working on it. That's where the monetization comes in. So.
Oh man.
So this was great. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope it helped people. I hope if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them offline.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, please reach out to Steven. There's one last time to look at his thing if you want to screenshot it. I'm gonna push you out of the way because our next speaker is in here. Thank you so much, Steven. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you real soon, man.
Yep.
All right, take care. I need super claps in the chat for Super Steven Green. Thank you so much, Steven. It's always a pleasure to have you come and speak. And speaking of a pleasure, it would be awesome if you wanted to say thank you to me or any of the speakers by going to indiepodcasters.com/TSY and make a donation to That Suits You. The guy who runs it, PK, is a great guy. He does great work and has been recognized nationally for his organization out of Brooklyn, New York. So he's a good, as a friend of mine, I would love for you to take the time to go and drop a few bucks, say thank you. It's always appreciated. All right, at this time, our next speaker is speaking on the topic of Set It and Forget It. Over 640 episodes later, how does the K4HTA Highlights podcast work? Everybody, I need super claps in the chat for Super Thor. What is up, Super Thor? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I didn't realize that you podcasted.
Well, that's debatable.
So you produce?
We'll see. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to share some of this info with folks today. I've gotten feedback in the past that this is not really a podcast, and
okay.
That's why I said it's debatable. So I think you'll get a sense of why I say that as we go through. I've got some slides
Share your screen at the bottom, the little computer screen there. You can share like your whole screen, or you can share just a window or a Chrome tab. Thank you so much, Greg, for the super claps. I appreciate it. All right, cool. All right, well, Thor, I'm going to get out of your way. You're on the clock for 30 minutes, and I'll be here listening and looking forward to hearing, learning actually, because like I said, I didn't realize that you did podcast.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, the title is actually kind of ironic because I have literally forgotten about this podcast a couple of times. Let me jump in here. So what is K4HTA? It's a weird, it's a call sign, an amateur radio call sign. And that happens to be one of my hobbies, amateur radio. And I've been involved with a club here locally in Vienna, Virginia. One of the call signs that they have licensed from the FCC is K4HTA. And they use it on for a variety of things. But one thing in particular is there's a repeater locally here that uses that call sign. And this is all of the amateur radio talk there's really going to be. But it's important to know that a repeater is something that basically lets low power radios talk over a bigger range and around terrain that would otherwise cause interference. So in this diagram, K4HTA is sitting up on top of the mountain, and these two folks with relatively low power radios are walking around talking to one another through K4HTA. So why did I think this might be interesting? The podcast itself, I would claim, is really not very interesting, right? If you listen to it, and it is essentially just audio that's captured off the air and massaged into a slightly more pleasant format and presented as a podcast. So if you listen to it, you'll hear an awful lot of chat about the weather, about traffic, and people who are into amateur radio tend to talk about amateur radio. So a lot of radio talk. It can be very interesting. Like I said, this is one of my hobbies, and I do find it interesting. So some of the interesting components about this are that the airwaves are public space. It's perfectly fine to record this audio and do whatever you like with it. And then an interesting bit about why it came about is at one point I was a trustee for the one of the club's call signs, not K4HTA, but another. And what that means is that as a trustee, you're responsible for some aspects of transmissions that are made with that call sign. And technically, you're supposed to monitor, like a repeater, constantly, which really isn't feasible. But it's something you're supposed to do. So, and being a relatively young person in the club, I spend a lot more time at work than most people. So a lot of things happen that I just miss because I can't listen, while I'm working. So it struck me that, okay, if I could find a way to collect all of this audio and turn it into a podcast every day, then I could listen on my drive into work or my drive home and catch up on what happened while I was away. So there's a lot of audio, right? Because what I want to do is record whatever's coming out of that repeater 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and use that as the content for the podcast, right? So I think this is one of the reasons folks say this isn't a podcast, because effectively I've outsourced the content. But the point for me is I want to capture the content so I can hear it. Turns out a lot of people in the radio club were interested too. But anyhow, so I need to record 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I use a pretty cheap piece of hardware called a Raspberry Pi and a couple of other cheap components, SDR device, that's a software-defined radio, and an antenna. And those three things plugged together really do all of the work for this podcast. So the Pi runs open source operating system. All of the tools are open source with the exception of some of the distribution stuff. So the way I publish the podcast, but I'll give a quick intro or overview of that here shortly. And so this, I think you can, yeah, you get the mouse. So this track at the top is actually 24 hours of audio. You can see that, most of the time there's not a lot going on. There's a little bit of activity here and a big chunk here. But this is what, the input is every day, right? This long chain of audio. And I chose to use a free lossless audio codec as the recording format for this, mainly because I can take advantage of run length encoding. What that means is that when you've got quiet periods here, or there's really zero energy, in the audio file, there will be a 0 followed by a length of how long that lasts. So you get a lot of compression in terms of disk space. So these files for 24 hours are pretty small, typically under, 25, 30 megabytes. They're pretty small. Maybe 100 megabytes. Anyway. So that thing runs 24/7, just recording everything that it hears, and writes all of that to a FLAC encoded file. And then each night at midnight, that process rolls over, a new recording is started, and with the recording that just ended, what needs to happen is we need to identify the interesting bits of that, right? There are two pieces in that previous clip that looked probably interesting. A lot of little blips here and there that are usually just noise. A lot of times people will just push their PTT on the radio and you'll hear just ka-chunk, and nobody wants to hear that. So we want to skip those things. And then, like I said, we want to make it somewhat palatable. So we want to add some canned audio, some dynamic audio, and the placeholder transitions are really canned too. And then do the now maybe unnecessary ID3 tagging and update an RSS feed, right? Those are the things you have to do to make a podcast episode. Now, with the randomized canned audio, right? Remember I said that the bulk of this content is coming off the air, but I wanted to make it feel like a podcast. So I recorded a couple of intros, just myself saying, this is the K4HJ Highlights podcast. There's a sample there that you can click to hear a decent example of what this thing sounds like. And then for the audio, the transitions between clips, I've got a handful of also pre-recorded, very generic reactions like, wow, that was interesting. What else happened? And the result of kind of splicing these things together, fading them in and out on top of one another, turns out to be remarkably convincing, right? So it's kind of fun to listen to, but mainly, like I said, the audience for this are people who want to hear it anyway, right? They know they're going to hear their friends talking about things, having conversations they may have missed. So my audience is easier to predict, I think, than most. I've got two that look like this, and I'm not going to belabor them. This is just kind of a logical flow of what happens, right? So if you enter here, this is when the recording rolls over and we want to build a podcast episode out of one. So what happens is we take that raw data and look for a potentially interesting clip. If nothing's found, then we just stop. There was nothing interesting that day. If something is found, then I use a tool called SOX, which is really kind of the Swiss Army knife of audio processing. It can do a lot. It's very counterintuitive to use, something that I think most podcasters might really hate the idea of using, but it's super, super powerful. So I use it all over the place in this workflow. And the first step is to shrink silence. Well, actually, the first step is for finding an interesting clip, right? So what it does is it looks for periods of non-silence that are surrounded on either end by a configurable amount. I use 2 minutes of silence. So what that does is it skips over the little kerchunks and kind of instantaneous noise and leads to, it picks what are usually the interesting parts, works well. And then the shrink silence part is where I use SOX to, given that subset, that small clip, I compress down any periods of silence within it to no more than 2 seconds. So if someone's long-winded and has a long and then picks up their speech, nobody wants to really hear that. So I compress that down to something short. And then once that's done, I look at the clip and say, okay, is it more than, I forget what the number is. I think it's 2 minutes. Is it more than 2 minutes long? If not, then just skip it. If it is, then it will do one other bit of processing, which is I use some speech recognition toolkits to look for a particular phrase in the recording. And if I find it, then I will skip that clip altogether. Otherwise, I'll use it. And the phrase is bubble, ignore this. I call generally I call the automation part of this bubble. She's my virtual assistant. So effectively, anyone who's using this repeater, if for whatever reason they don't want to end up in the podcast, can say bubble, ignore this at any point during the conversation, and it will get skipped. So that's kind of how the episodes are built up. This process of extracting clips repeats until it gets to the end of the file. So if any clips were enqueued, then we jump to make episode, which is the next part. And here I've tried to annotate to the left the tools that I use at each stage. The first one is to generate Bubble's comments, right? So at the beginning of the show, I'll ask Bubble, what did you find today? And Bubble will respond with, again, some randomization. Well, Thor, I found 2 clips that you might be interested in. Or, well, I found 1 clip. So that varies by episode, and it's generated on the fly using, it's actually Amazon Polly, which is a text-to-speech engine that lets you do some interesting things, controlling inflection of the produced speech and accents. So, no one's going to believe it's a real person, but it's not me, which makes it interesting. We can probably skip through most of this. I think if you've ever edited a podcast, you know what these steps are. You got to put the intro in place. You got to interleave segments and transitions, and you need to drop on an outro. All of this is done with SOX. The sync and compand are two filtering operations that SOX will do. Sync is necessary because the repeater emits a 67 hertz tone on its output. And lots of times folks can't hear that. I can hear that, interestingly, but I use a sync filter, which is effectively a low pass, high pass, powerful filter. And so I use that to remove the low end tone and things above like 7 kilohertz, that most people aren't going to hear anyway, certainly in my audience. And then compand is it's basically a compressor expander. If you've used live equipment, old DBX things like compressor gates do some of this. What this does is pushes down the peaks in the audio, but it also will raise up the low energy parts. So I use that once the whole show is spliced together to try to provide a little bit of consistency in terms of sound. That raises the noise levels too. And this is what's really tricky because my show can be really bad. Right now, the repeater has been moved and has some configuration problems. So if you listen to like the episode from yesterday, it's probably awful. But it will fix itself. So once that's done, I use a tool called LAME, an open source MPEG encoder to do the encoding of the audio out of FLAC into MP3 and add ID3 tags. I used to then feed that episode through some speech recognition services, Google's Web Speech API. I don't know if they call it that anymore. And I've used AWS Transcribe. I think that those could be really useful tools for some podcasts in terms of producing either transcriptions or show notes. Neither of them is perfect. Certainly in my case, they're far from perfect because folks who use this repeater use a lot of jargon and use ITU phonetics when they talk, so Kilo 4 HTA is not something that any general purpose speech recognizer is going to really handle well. So I've not been plugging this bit in lately. At one point, the Google Web Speech API was free, so I was doing it, but that changed, and I don't get enough value out of it. So at that point, I just write the RSS feed that results from the new episode introduction. I filter it so that only the last 14 episodes are presented in the feed. And then I publish everything. I use Amazon AWS S3 as the storage solution. And I have a CloudFront distribution, which is a CDN that will cache all of the episodes in the feed globally. That was put together. Strangely, there are listeners in some European countries, and I had some members of the club moved overseas, and they wanted to stay in touch. So this worked out well. They got low latency downloads. Not that that's a huge deal, but so what actually gets published, like I said, gets pushed into AWS S3. If you don't know what that is, it's just sort of a blob store. They call what you would call a hard drive, maybe, or a drive, a bucket. And you can push anything into that bucket. So I push the media and the RSS feed into S3. And from there, I had configured a CloudFront distribution that, handles the caching of that stuff. and it just works reasonably well, and it's super inexpensive. Here, this is a snapshot of Billing Console. I don't know if you can read it, but I think this only went back to January of this year, but I think I've spent under $5 hosting this thing, which is good. So what does it look like? So if you browse to that site, you're going to see something that looks like this. This is the RSS feed. I think you may have seen in there an acronym XSLT. So what that is a style sheet. What I do is I attach a style sheet to the RSS feed itself, so that if it's rendered in a browser, it will generate HTML. So that's what you're seeing here. It's the output of that XSL transformation. So, it's not pretty. It's acceptable to me, and I don't have to touch anything to update it. So this is what I've been running with. It adds, during the production piece, it adds more randomized. These were meant to be jokes. I ran out of creativity, so I don't have enough of them, but they change by episode. So how has it been useful to anyone other than a fun project? Because it records 24 hours, 7 days a week, it generates loads of data, and we can do interesting things with that. The first one that comes up was that I noticed a change in the way the repeater was working at one point. And these are spectrograms that just show the amount of energy in frequency bins over time. So as you go across here horizontally, that's 24 hours. And you can see that on this one, things are relatively quiet. This happens to be like midnight to early morning. Things are really quiet. And then, okay, some noise, a little bit of activity probably. A couple of days later, the picture looked like this, with all of these spikes. And, I hadn't been listening to the repeater at this point. I just saw this and said, oh, what's going on? So it turns out that something had changed in the repeater's configuration, and every 10 minutes, whether it needed to or not, it was announcing itself over the air. This is the K4HTA repeater, which it doesn't have to do. It's not the end of the world. This just highlighted it, brought it to our attention, and we're able to realize that it's doing that, which is just a waste of energy. So we took a action to fix it. Things returned to this state. But sometimes just seeing things at a broader scale is useful. So it's been good in that respect. And I'm looking for other ways to make use of 4 years of continuous audio recordings. Where is this thing particularly bad? Like I said, I've gotten some criticism about calling it a podcast at all. Sometimes it's just got really awful sound. And that's due largely to the fact that I'm recording over the air, and each user of the repeater is in a different location with a different radio. So effectively, you could imagine that they're using different microphones, some wireless, some wired, some have frayed wires and connectors. And it's really tricky to try to process the audio after the fact to level those out. I mentioned the Compander. That's been good, but there's still a lot of noise. Like I said, my audience will tolerate the noise. Most people wouldn't, so I understand that. The fact that people use a lot of jargon, it makes some transcription difficult, but I don't think most people would really run into that problem. And then, like I said, I don't control the content. Effectively, this is all outsourced. So if that repeater has problems, my content suffers too. That's the garbage in, garbage out bit. So I think at one point I convinced my wife that it was a podcast, and she said, "Yeah, but it's so niche that none of this is generalizable." And I tend to disagree a little bit. I think that if you've got something like, perhaps something like Joe was describing, where you've got a high frequency release schedule for your podcast, something like Socks. A lot with reducing repetitive things that you have to do. There's a steep learning curve with it, but with some experimentation, as long as you don't require it to be functional in the critical flow of releasing your episodes, work it in slowly on the side. You might be surprised that you can make you can get some real efficiencies out of that. I was worried about ID3 tags when I put this together. Now, like I said, that was about 3-4 years ago. And I went to great lengths to make sure that I had the right ones, and whether or not they're useful. They do help sometimes with software that was ID3 aware. Like I said, Lame is what I use to do the MP3 encoding, and it handles that. And then S3 and CloudFront are things that I have trouble understanding whether people know about these or if they should. I'm a software engineer by day, so I tend to know about these things, but these are services that are relatively cheap, but I will not lie, there's a steep learning curve in terms of getting into them and setting them up and making use of them. I think a lot of podcast hosting companies actually use exactly that technology for most of their content, but I don't know for sure. I haven't tracked them in a while. And then the web speech services, I think I had some good success with those initially, and I think that for the podcasts that I've been involved with in the past, I think these are really exciting. The fact that you could transcribe your episodes, like I said, to produce notes or a transcription, could reduce a lot of work. They're not always great, but they're getting better all the time, and some will even do what they call diarization. In other words, they'll recognize different speakers in the audio and attribute the transcriptions with those speakers. I've never seen one work really, really well, but that'll change. So I think those are the key things that I thought might be useful. Maybe not today, but at some point. I think this is the last slide I've got. Just a bunch of links, which may not be useful. I understand that. Feel free to contact me any way you want to. I'm happy to answer any questions or just chat. And that's it.
Hey, Thor. Yeah, I didn't realize. Like, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, when I was in that room, I think I did see some radio equipment in there, right?
Oh yeah. You did.
Yeah. So now that I'm thinking about it, because I know I was very tired at that point, because I think I had just gotten off a plane from California, and then drove from Baltimore down to DC, and then went to the conference all day, and then like crashed on the day bed in there.
Yeah. In the blink room.
Yeah. That was crazy that worked out the way it did. But no, that's really interesting. I could definitely see a need to do that. If you're creating like a lot of content, being able to automate like even more of the process than I'm already automating, like, would be awesome. for that kind of stuff. That's all. Thank you so much for thinking outside the box on that.
No, sure. I mean, thank you for tolerating it. Like I said, I'm surprised that, I mean, the audio is particularly bad. And, when I listen to shows when I'm at conferences like yours, I mean, it doesn't compare. So I think that you'd be turned off by the quality of it. But I think you might be able to extract some of the automation tools.
No, absolutely. I definitely think that people should take that into consideration because there's definitely that was the whole thing. Like I knew going into having an automation, automate your podcast, niche conference that, this isn't going to be for everyone. A lot of this is going to be kind of over a lot of people's heads, but there's people that are like, I've been doing this a long time. I want to take it to the next level. I want to produce more content, or I want to get back some of that time that I've been, spending. And this is the kind of talk that I was kind of hoping for because there's a lot of technical stuff in this. Like, I could totally see getting a Raspberry Pi and then just, setting it up to literally just check for the newest episode and upload it, drop it in here. And I'm not too much of a programmer. I used to be, in a previous life, I was a bit more of a programmer than I am now. But I could see, digging in and figuring out how to make that happen so that I can get some more of my time back, than I already am. So thank you so much, Thor.
No, sure thing. Anytime.
Tell Jennifer I said hi, and tell her that she needs. She's sitting. She's not sitting right there, is she?
No,
of course not. Tell her she's got to get on. She hasn't filled out the spreadsheet yet for Business Geeks on Monday because she was like, "I'm going to get on this right away."
No way I'm going to tell her. I'll tell her you want to talk to her.
There you go. She will probably just glare at you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Thor.
Yep.
Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, cool.
Take care. I need super claps in the chat for Super Thor. It was awesome having him here and, really diving deep into some things that I didn't even realize or even think about. Like, hey, getting an ultra low voltage computer, ultra low powered computer to automate, and just run some of those automated processes over and over and over again. Thank you so much, Tim, for the super claps. Yeah, there's so many things like that you can do that sometimes it just doesn't necessarily occur to you. And I mean, even that, I have a fanless PC. I have I'm using my computer right now to stream to you, right? And I have my MacBook Pro right next to me, the little 13-inch one. And then I have a fanless PC under my desk hooked up to some monitors right up above me. To show, one shows cameras of around the house and one shows who's on the website. So right now I could see that somebody's up in Canada looking at the Supercharger podcast webpage, which is awesome. It's been super helpful to have that screen up there for just seeing when I'm talking about stuff, when things are scrolling, since I'm constantly live streaming. It's really helpful to see who's going to the website and when they are going there. So I'm a big fan of figuring out what's something I could do. It won't require a ton of effort. It won't require a ton of power, but I can gain so much more knowledge from just doing something a little bit. At this time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. He is speaking on the topic of automate the repurposing of your podcast, which that's what we're all here to do, share and figure out how to automate this thing called podcasting as much as possible so that we can either get back to life or get back to putting in the reps and getting more podcasts created. He is one of the sponsors of this event, so I'm looking forward to seeing him speak. I need super claps in the chat for Super Tim Gillette. Woo! What is going on, Tim?
Hey, it's
How
me.
are you?
Oh, I'm live.
You are.
It's a good thing I put my clothes on.
Right? Yeah. It's what time is it? It's new? It's noon there, sir.
It's noon. Yeah. It's about breakfast time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Breakfast time for Tim. Yeah. So
yeah.
Dude, been doing good today. A lot of good automation. It was good to see Hani again. I haven't seen him doing a speech in a while. I know him and I I go on back to the Blab days like you.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Crazy,
yeah,
man.
great stuff
Awesome.
coming in here today, and looking forward to it. Hey, I know you all expected some weird fancy thing, but guess what? I'm not even going to do PowerPoint. I have my notes.
And you're not ripping them up this time, so it's not.
I'm actually, and I'm gonna. I finished writing them all out so that I could read them, and probably I can just about read them without my glasses. But I'm gonna type them up, and those people who want them can get them at my. I'll have them up on my website tonight. So if
Awesome.
you want them, you can go there and get them. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to get out of your way so we can stay on track here with time.
Cool.
Even though I'm up speaking next, and I don't even think I'll use the full 30 minutes. So anyway,
I may not use my full 30 minutes. I only have 16 pages of notes. That may only take me 15.
All right. You're on the clock, sir.
All right, man. Okay, so if you build it, they will come has always, and I do mean always, been a statement that I hate. They should have said, if you market it, they will come. Now, I want to paint a little picture today. I decided to, be creative. And I want you to imagine today we're going to build a collector car museum garage warehouse. So you got about 40 to 50 collector cars. You want to put them all in one warehouse so everybody can come by and see them. You can have access to where, you can have stuff to keep them plugged in when you need it, unplug them from, the chargers, hop into them and drive them if you want. You can have your tools set up. Maybe you got a fancy Mac tools or Snap-on tools that you want there. You want them out on the wall. Maybe you even got some cool decorations that you want to have all over your walls. All right, cool lighting. All right, nice little, maybe a cafe in the corner where you can enjoy your coffee, a bar. I don't know what you're going to have, but this is going to be one of the coolest garages you could ever imagine. Are you picturing this garage? Picture it now. Now, I know some of you actually have a list of the 40 to 50 cars that you want to put in there. Maybe it's Chevrolets. It's Buicks. Maybe it's the old Oldsmobile. Maybe it's a Tucker. I don't know what you're into. Me, I might have a Cadillac, a Chevy or two. Might even have a Ford Mustang. I might stoop that low. I don't know. The point is that we want to actually set this up to be one of the coolest places to store your personal cars. You're a car collector. You want it to be the coolest garage on the planet. And you want it so people can come by and take tours. You want it so people can walk in when they walk in and it's an experience just to come to your garage. Are you getting that? It's kind of like an experience going to Joe Pardo's garage. You can play video games or arcade games in his garage. I mean, I hear it's a cool garage. Just saying. Now, let's say you want this garage. All right. You want to be able to reach. Let's pick a part of the country that would be kind of unique and has some unique areas. Like you want to be able to get there quickly, maybe from Illinois, from Chicago. Maybe you want to get there from Indianapolis. Maybe even hop on over from Detroit or Grand Rapids, Michigan. Maybe you want to get there even from as far up as, let's say, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, let's find a spot that would be right smack dab in the middle of all those locations to build this coolest garage. Because let's face it, people are going to come from everywhere to go to this garage when you build it. So now, I want you to picture it. The coolest spot. And I mean, this would be the coolest garage because I'm going to give you one really, and I do mean really, thing that would really make this the coolest garage in the world. We're going to make it right smack dab in the middle of Lake Michigan. How many? I mean, come on, Lake Michigan. It's in the middle of a lake. You got a garage in the middle of a lake. Nobody has that, right? That would be the most unique, the coolest garage on the planet. No one could say they have a garage cooler than yours because yours is in the middle of a lake. Not just a lake, but one of the Great Lakes, right? I know that's the cool garage. Wow. Only one problem. How are you ever going to drive the cars? You'll need a boat to get them cars out, huh? Gonna need something unique to take those cars out. Probably have to have boats going back and forth to get the people to come by there to tour it. But it would be the coolest garage, would you admit? It would be darn cool. Really cool, right? So we make it there right in the middle of Lake Michigan. It would be one of the coolest garages on the planet, and everybody would want to be there. But the problem is you can't get the cars out to drive them. You need to build something that is so cool, and you want to build something so cool online. All right, maybe you want to build the coolest podcast in the world. Some of you have these grand designs for your podcast. The problem is the process to get to them, or the process to make them work doesn't always work. We have some of the coolest things in the world that I hear people want to do, and every time I hear them create all these cool things they want to do, some of them are the grand design of a garage in the middle of Lake Michigan. Now, great to hear from Hani this morning, and I think when it comes to tools, all right, Hani has created some of the coolest tools for online people. I've used some of the coolest tools in the world out there, all right? I've had as a part of my website, I've had Optimized Press for years. I've actually had, been using a version of One Shopping Cart since 2012. I'm trying to think some of the other tools that I've used out there that are just so cool that I've used them for so darn long that I'm used to them. They work. They are cool. But when it comes to using tools and comes to going out there to do tools, here's what everybody does. They shop the tools before they even have a system to make the tools work. Shopping for the tools before that's just running. I always hated, this is my other hateful thing that I love to hate to hear when I hear people say it. Well, I got to find an app for that. What's the process you're doing now? Well, I'm not doing the process right now. I need to find an app first. That's like, I need to build a garage, but I don't have a car to put it in. That's like, I need to make my website faster on the internet, but I don't even have a web domain yet. Are you getting this? Some of you are trying to do the process long before you actually have the idea set up. So many people out there are creating great tools and they make cool things happen to them. And there are some cool marketing to get you to go, oh man, I need that tool. Now, I'm not criticizing what I'm about to say when I say it. I tried ClickFunnels a couple of years ago, not putting down Russell Brunson and what Russell Brunson's doing. ClickFunnels, damn awesome. Guess what? It was the most confusing, messed up, bleep, bleep, bleep word that you can imagine for me. It didn't fit my system. Great tool. But by the time I got done trying to use it, I had to shut down and do away with everything I've spent 6 years building. Throw it all in the trash and start over again just to use the cool tool. Some people out there don't realize that everything that's out there in the cool tool doesn't work. In some cases, the cool tools are built because the owner themselves really one day got so fed up with trying to figure out how to automate this process that they said, you know what, I'm going to create a tool to make that work. And that tool worked for their process like a freaking wild ass Corvette. It ran like you wouldn't believe. So then they started offering it to other people. And their new business became selling this tool. Great idea. Some tools only last a while because people try the free versions of the tool and they go, man, I just can't get it to work. So they never buy the upgrade. And eventually the maker of the tool just can't afford to keep supporting it any longer. Some people actually see all these tools and these great tools because the person who created the tool started with the very idea in process. And by the way, it's been mentioned already on the show today, all right, is they wanted to create this tool with their perfect intention of, I'm going to build this tool and sell this off, and I'm going to cash out, take my millions, and go hang out on the beach. They never once created the tool with the idea of, I'm going to help you solve this problem. That's what I like about Hani. Hani is still in the tool business and still helping you solve the problem. There's a lot of them out there aren't. They create the tool, they're going to cash out this thing, and they're going to go sit in a yacht in the Mediterranean someplace, all right, with the money. In the meantime, the person who bought the tool, the corporation, throws it in the trash because it was a competitor to something they were trying to create. And now you're gone. Some tools, they get combined with others and built into it and put into a companies. What's your point with all this, Tim? Do you have a point? I said, yeah, here's my point. Stop buying the apps and stop buying the automation first. Start with creating a process. Write it down. Guys, I wrote my notes down today. This is why I did this. On paper. I know this is a foreign concept in the computer world, but you know what I mean? You can write it down on paper. There are tools out there that you can create it. I've actually got a tool that creates, I outline my whole funnel on before I go implement it. Great tool. They're out there, all right? I was doing it on paper long before I found that tool to do it. I actually have a whiteboard and it's way over there. And right now that whiteboard has a whole outline for one of my clients who was here for her one day a couple weeks ago. And I outlined and made everything flow with all of her websites and how to make it all work and how the content created in and swung. I did. I created that. I outlined it. Because so often we get caught up in the tools and not the process. Build it out manually first. Nothing sucks more than losing all of the work that you've spent years creating, all because you don't know how to operate it when the one thing that keeps it going disappears. I had a great friend, you know what I mean? Her name was Kim, and she was a great coach, a great personal, in a way, life coach. She had a really unique niche, and she was doing very good at it. And then she hit some hard times. Because what she did was she bought everybody's thing who said, you need to build this, you need to automate it, you need to outsource all of your work, you need to have, assistants do all of it. And all of her assistants and everything created all of these tools for her. Did all of this stuff for her. And eventually it was not making money. And Kim went broke. Had to sell her house. Had to sell off all of her stuff because she was going broke. The reason she was going broke was not because she couldn't keep paying them, but was when everything was handed to her in a notebook. And she sat on them back. It was back when I had a patio deck out at my old house down in Irving. Sat on that deck with the notebook that outlined it all. And she didn't know how to make the process work anymore because she never once did it. Everybody else set it up and automated it. And she had no traffic, no forms of new business, no forms of marketing coming in to actually get her stuff going, and was gone. Once you build the process and you build it in a manual way that you can actually operate it, then you go out and find the tools to take away the steps one by one. Automate what you can. The first thing I always tell people is automate your marketing first. Automate the marketing. Forget automating. All right, let me automate the actual work I got to do. No, first automate the marketing. Get a freaking long list of people coming to you for help. Automate the marketing. But we're talking podcasts here. We're not talking like build a business. So automate things that you actually need to take away, steps and that you want to do less of, and things that you want more of done automatically for you. You need to build it, your podcast, because you're an indie podcaster. You're not trying to build it so you can sell this podcast off to some corporation. You're building this probably because you love Disney. Maybe you love cars. Maybe you love boats. Maybe you love hanging out at your house. I don't know what it is that you love, but you love something, so you created a podcast to talk about it. My point to all of this is you're an independent podcaster. Keep control of it. Keep it in your space so that you can always grasp it back before someone takes it away. Nothing sucks more than having someone take over your stuff and take it away. When you build a system, you can work it manually. Make sure you can work it manually so you always can go back to fix things when they break. Now imagine you're using one of those automated tools because you've built the process out. All right. You've got to, so you recorded your podcast and it's going out all these different places and being distributed. And along the way, one of the tools disappears. I had this great podcast and radio show. I was on someone else's network doing it. And it was automatic. They had it automatically had it go up to Apple iTunes. And it was cool to have that done there. And I was telling everybody, I had a website pointing to Apple iTunes. I had a website pointing to their site. All this stuff going. And one day I said, okay, I'm not going to use your service anymore. They took all of my content, threw it in the trash, took the link off of their website, and all of my Apple Podcasts. All right. I wish I could make the trash sound. Gone. 2.5 years of recording and interviewing some of the top people in the world. Gone. Because I plugged into somebody else's automation and didn't have control of it to get it back. So when you build a system, always make it so that you know the process. And if one thing falls out of the loop, you can go back in and fix the loop and get it working again. Now, I'm going to share with you guys some of the processes that I've done. I'm going to give you a disclaimer first. The first disclaimer I'm going to give you is that just because I've learned to do this way doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Matter of fact, I can't guarantee it's going to work for you. We teach people at our at our blog and video con and at our simple easy events, we teach people how to, first of all, create their own. Help my mastermind members, my inner circle members, I help them create their own. None of theirs is mine. Every one of theirs is different. So I got to give you that disclaimer is, first of all, I'm going to share with you my process, but I can't guarantee you my process is going to be yours. But my process can give you maybe a little bit of an idea to create your own and then work with somebody to get it refined and make it work great. So when I started out, I started with the idea for Tim Gillette Show. When I actually went to an independent podcast, I decided I was going to do it. I was going to interview other people. I was going to record it on Zoom. I mean, I thought, man, I'm recording on Zoom. It's a great tool. Why not? Record it on Zoom. I've got the recording, me and that person side by side. Zoom gives me the audio, so I have audio as well as video. This is cool. I've got the audio and video back down on my computer. Great. I can do that. Then I would take the video from it. I used a tool back then called Ecamm. I still have Ecamm. I bought a lifetime membership into Ecamm. Can use it. Great tool if you're on a Mac. Broadcast that out and able to put my banners and everything into it and broadcast it out to my Facebook, my business page. I even put it up on my YouTube channel. All that stuff was done right from there because I used that one little tool. Well, then I had this idea. Well, okay, now I actually have to upload the video to YouTube. After I was done the broadcasting to Facebook, I hit a button and it automatically put the recording of it up on my YouTube channel as a YouTube video. But then I had to go back in and I had to edit out or edit my notes, edit the show title, put in SEO, you know what I mean? That's some extraterrestrials outside thing. You know what I mean? Put in the SEO keywords so that it would actually get people who were searching for that topic to find it on YouTube. I had to do all that stuff because it wasn't done for me automatically. After I embedded up onto YouTube, I actually would then make a blog post out of it. Well, back then, I made the blog post out of my YouTube channel, my YouTube video, and I put it. I did very few of these, all right, in my first season of the Tim Gillette Show. I put the audio podcast back then. I was going to go with Podbean because everybody was talking about Podbean and Libsyn, and I liked Podbean. There's a ton of them out there, all right. As a matter of fact, I think Joe's got some of the sponsored ones here, and you know that could work for you as well. You don't have to do. But then I was going to take and pull clips from it, repurpose it, and put them into my social media back. Great idea. All laid out on paper. As a matter of fact, I laid it out in what I call this my little notebook here, all right, where I outline so many processes over the years, and then I go into implement it. What I ended up doing, after I got started, I did a couple of them and realized the monotonous of going in between and doing all the in-between things. I then found StreamYard. And realized StreamYard cut 3 or 4 steps out of the process for me. Automation, finding ones that cut the processes out. I now record on StreamYard. Auto broadcast sent to my Facebook page and to my YouTube channel, automatically sent. All I have to do is go into YouTube, all right, and put it into the playlist so it's the very top video the next afternoon. I then use a tool called If This, Then That. I take it from YouTube and it audio automatically takes my YouTube video and auto broadcasts it to my Facebook page, to my blog, all right, back to Facebook. It'll even actually make posts out to Twitter. There's tools in there that I can automatically set it up so that it works out to go out for me. I created a bunch of Twitter things, little clips about it, and I have them on auto tweet. Like I use use an automated tool for Twitter. But now we go to the audio. The audio I went to Anchor FM, and I set it up for Anchor FM because it auto distributes out to so many places. I just had to plug in the RSS feed. Now, it's not always about you when you do this, all right? That was my process to get it going. There's ways that I am still simplifying it. But here's the coolest thing that I learned about automation. It's not always about you. Sometimes it's about making your guests' process automated and simple. Now, I teach simple, easy marketing, which is make it simple and easy for the client and customer to find you, research you, and buy from you. That's exactly what we do. I never, by the way, in my process of booking guests, which I'm going to share with you here right now as we get ready to close, I never talk to the guests until the day of recording. It is all automated for my guests, and it all explains the process. It all is simple for them. Number one, they go to my website. I advertise it all the time. Go to timgillette.com/podcast interview, one word. And you can sign up to become a guest. I have an automated process that actually takes your information down. There's stuff you've got to put in there so I know, and it's brought up into a file. Email then comes out the next day and says, hey, listen, before we find a spot for you, would you do me a favor and go watch? Now, when you put your information, it goes automatically to a thank you page that has a video explaining our entire process. Created that video one time. Explains the entire process. The emails then tell them, hey, did you go watch the video? Make sure you watch the video so you understand how this podcast works. I have a video on, on the website, and an email sends you there to get it. Then I have an email that sends a calendar link. It says, here, find a spot on my calendar that works. Now, I use Calendly. I created a spot on the calendar for people to do it, and I decided to change. I put my podcast in certain days. I actually do a spotlight in my Facebook groups, and those spotlights are on certain days. It's like these calendars are set up so that people can find the spot that works for them, but yet it's in a spot that fits my schedule. And if I just happen to have something else going on, like I'm speaking at Joe Pardo's event, so no one else can book that spot out because my calendar has that blocked already. The calendar has a question onto it. It says, did you watch the video? Make sure to ask for things like that. The day of the event, I have 2 automated emails that goes out to that person. Number one email goes out. By the way, before I send the emails out, I actually the day of or sometimes the night before, I go into finally, this is the one manual thing I have to do, is I set up the StreamYard thing myself. Set it up for the thing. It goes all automatically set out to broadcast into groups of my process. Then I give them that link to the what do they call it? To the back room, to the green room. I've got a link to the green room that is actually sent to them in an email, and it goes out either the morning of or the night before. And the email says, hey, today is the day. And you got a whole thing saying, telling you where it's being broadcast at, how you can share it, and as well as where the studio is. And then I send another one out 1 hour before. 1 hour before their broadcast, another email comes out and it says, hey, I'm looking forward to having you on the show. And it's basically the same information that is in the first email, but now is recaptured. And it says, hey, do me a favor, show up 5 minutes early so that I can walk you through the process and we can actually make this work simple, easy. The bottom line of what I've shared with you here today. There are so many people out there who are actually searching for the tools to automate it. I say build it out first. Then find the tools to automate it. Start the other way. For years, I actually was trying to find a simple, easy way. I was trying to find the cheap way. I was trying to find the sleazy way. I was trying to hack my way in and realized that it didn't work. Instead, I sat down and started building things right. Now, I have people buying products and services from me because they got into some email funnel from something that they opted into 2 years ago. And then 2 years later, it automates and sends something to them. I build a system and then I find the tools to make it work for me. You need to find a system that makes tools work for you, but you need to be able to change it and you need to have control of it so that if something happens, you can go in and fix it. And bottom line, you got to get help. Our system at Tim Gillette and Simple Easy Marketing is this. Number one, have assets. Your podcast, your asset. Number 2, get a system. And number 3, be disciplined to follow a system. Want help from us? If you know what I mean, get into Joe's. Joe's got a great Indie PodCon University with a lot of these things into it. But you want help from us, we can always help you with another level. And that is, you can come to our event. Simple, easy. I think it's, it's blogandvideocon.com/virtual. And if you donate $50 to the charity today, not only am I going to gift you into coming to the event, you get lifetime access to all of my virtual events. All you have to do is donate to today's charity, and you get it. I'm Tim Gillette. I thank you for listening to me today. Mr. Joe, Super Joe Pardo, come on back in. Let's close this up and put Super Joe Pardo on to speak.
Hey, that was great, man. That was great. I couldn't agree more. I think like people sometimes there's one caveat to that.
Yeah.
AppSumo is probably the only caveat I would say to buy it and then worry about how you're going to figure it out late, like how you're going to worry about later. Because especially when it's a lifetime deal, like for $50, like I've bought so many things that like I still haven't, like a Social Bee is an example. I know I need to use it. I bought it. I have it.
Yeah, so many people are buying tools and then the tools are obsolete a year later and they don't realize it. Absolutely. I mean, you got to do your research on these companies. Hani is one of these companies. Like, I'm glad you had Hani on today because Hani is one of these people who's dedicated to your process.
Yep.
You know what I mean? AppSumo, I think I had some of their stuff in there, and I think I may have bought too. I don't even know. It's not something that fit me, but it's not saying that these things won't. But my point of the whole thing is that's it. You need to, instead of just going from tool to tool, you need to build a process out and then find tools. Because when you do that, there are going to be tools like AppSumo that drop in your lap lifetime. And I think you paid what, $67 for it, Joe?
I think for AppSumo deals, usually they're $50. I've spent up to $100 on certain things like Restream. So Restream.io, like I have a lifetime membership to that, which is awesome. I stream my video game, playing sessions through that, so I can go out to multiple platforms and all that. And they actually have services that are kind of rivaling what's going on here with StreamYard. But there's just a couple of things that I like. If they make a handful of adjustments to StreamYard or to Restream, like I might be convinced to stop paying $200 a year for StreamYard and just move over to it. Like I am always frugal when it comes to finding the services, integrating things so that it's cheap and it doesn't cost me a recurring fee to have to constantly, sell because they're going to take me they're going to cost me $100 for this service and $100 for this service and $100 for this, and then $50 a month to bring all three services under one roof. And it's like, wow, I'm spending $350. Like I got to make that back just to make that back. And yeah, you got to have costs that you're spending money on, but there's, sometimes depending on what it is, it's not worth going out of your way to like use a service to keep paying for it, right? And we like I think what you said about like, okay, so in the beginning you might not know a lot of things, but sometimes it's better to not know those things and learn as you go, doing it yourself rather than being like, oh, I'm going to pay this person. Well, then the money doesn't come in, or the prices go up, or that person gets hit by a bus, sadly, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there like, well, I don't really know how all this stuff works, like, but my business is operating. Hopefully things continue to go, and then like this service breaks, and then you got to get it fixed, or you got to reach out to somebody else, and next thing you know, like, you're not sitting on top of the hill anymore. You're like, oh no, I got to find experts, and now you're paying even more money because, they're like, they're not. Oh, I'm just getting started. Like, I'll help you with this. Like, that. Well, kind of thing.
And Joe, and it's always, sometimes the deal is not always a deal. And one of the reasons that you need to be plugged into a mentor, Joe, Ross, any of us, all right, is we're going to look out for you based on your plan. I sit here and work on things with my clients on their plan. So when one client comes to me and goes, hey, should I get Restream.io? I can actually, some clients I could say, no, it's not worth it for you.
Yeah.
But when you actually lay out your plan, all right, I've got my business system down to a system to where I know where I'm going. I know everything I do. Everything has purpose. Everything has meaning. And when you do that, all right, it does it. And some of you are just out there going, well, and you're going from one cheap program to the next cheap program, trying to figure this out instead of, invest a couple grand and work with a coach. I invested, I think it was 2.5 years ago, I invested $25,000 to join an elite coaching program. And that was when my business went from to because I invested in the coach. And at the time I was like, I don't have $25,000. That $25,000 would actually buy my, pay my truck off right now. Instead, I chose to invest in the right coach because of where I wanted to go. And now he was basically able to come in and go, okay, you don't need that anymore. Throw that out. You know what I mean? And that's why I say, you always get the discipline to follow the system. All right. Every one of those tools out there, many of them are great tools. And I think I had one in 2013 that I bought and invested in that the guy did. He literally was building it to sell. And as soon as it was gone, all right, I was like, man, okay, I'm glad I spent $97 for a lifetime access. It's not there no more. Anyway.
Yeah. No, and that stuff does happen. Yeah, so it is one of those things where, and that's where I think, teach a person to fish versus just fishing for them is it comes really into play, especially if this is going to be your business. Like, there's a lot of technical stuff and you don't have to know everything. But the thing is you have to give yourself the permission to learn as you go and not feel like, oh, I don't know it all. So like, it's a computer and I don't know. Well, then I don't know. Like, if you're not willing to get past that aspect of it, then maybe this isn't for you. But if you're willing to get past that, like, there's so many things to learn and to, be a part of. And as long as you, like, to me, it also, if that's the case, like, it goes back to like knowing what your niche is and who your avatar of the person you're trying to reach is. Like, you get that and you stay focused to that. The tech part is going to get out of the way as you open your mind up to say, I'm going to figure this out the best I can, even if it's not perfect. Right. So most
of the people where I speak at a lot of these events that I've spoken at, even like not virtual ones like yours, Joe, but a lot of live ones, I'm the only one coming in there not teaching something technical. I'm getting you to think before you, and what happens is a lot of, especially podcasters, guys, I'm the same way. And I had to reverse my thinking is you can get into the technical. Oh, how do I make this work? What computer do I need to make this work? Joe and I, we sat discussing the headaches with my computer this week one day over the phone, and it helped me figure out the technical. I don't need to find 50 million apps. All right. Joe and I are partnered on things. So I call Joe up and go, hey, Joe, what do you do? How do you fix this? And he gives me his opinion. And immediately now I went and do my Google search based on what Joe told me. Guess what? I found a solution to my problem, Joe.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Good.
What we talked about is it's basically I'm putting in the new. I ordered
an SSD and some more,
and I'm going to put in a new SSD and I'm putting in more RAM, and this thing will still run me for another 3-4 years.
It absolutely will. Yeah, you don't need a new computer. You just need to. It's not an easy thing to do on an iMac. So
no, it's not. But I watched several videos on how to do it, and the tool I'm buying actually comes with a video on how to do it.
Sweet, yeah. So it's not impossible if you're willing to just be easy because you don't want to break it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, if you did break it, you were pretty much in the boat of needing a new computer anyway. This will help you save a lot of money and not have to contribute to e-waste in the process.
Really.
So it's a thing. If you take the time to do it, it's not a big deal. Yeah, let me know how you make out with it, because I'm curious. Because I've never taken one apart. I should have took the one apart that I had, because that would have. It was only $400 at the time. It was probably even cheaper now for that same one. But I just didn't have the time to like take it apart and all that with two kids.
Well, yeah, and I mean I don't want to get away from the purpose of today's things, but
yeah.
You and I will talk about it later, and maybe you and we'll do. Maybe you and I will do a podcast or recording about it, but. I think I'm going to record doing it because it's not that hard of a process. And if you try to tell me how to do it, Joe, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
I would have immediately. I went, oh, that's too hard. It would have frustrated me. I had to take time to analyze it, and that's exactly what I was trying to explain today. Take the time to get things right. Don't hack your way in. You know what I mean? There is nothing worse than wasting 5 years of your life trying to hack an automation process for free than to build the system, all right, and take 2 years and build it right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Because that's the other thing is that once you know what your process looks like, then you like you said, you can find the tools because that tool that you buy today might not exist a year from now. It might not exist 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So if you don't really have a good understanding of your processes, which is I'm just
well, I mean, cameras, video cameras,
so.
and there's another thing which we could talk about: video cameras, and doing that. I bought a flip video. How many remember the flip video? I spent $300 freaking for that thing, and the company was gone a year later. I couldn't even get support, so I got rid of it. Yeah. But that goes down the line of, well, everybody's telling me this is what I need to do. And yes, they got a great affiliate fee for telling me that. But
first model of that was 2006, and in 2011 they discontinued them.
Yep, I bought in 2000. It was 2010. I bought one, and actually I had a whole mount on my motorcycle to actually use it to video. And somewhere I have it hidden a video, and the mount was so hard that you can see it. The video does this from the Harley.
For anyone that's not familiar, this was I guess the original flip that they made.
Yeah, I had a Flip HD, which I mean Scott Simpson brought it up this week. He said, well, what did you have? It's like I at least had an HD. So
no, that is cool. It's a shame they didn't continue to survive, and hopefully GoPro doesn't go the same way. I know they're trying really hard to not go the same way as Flip. But anyway,
it's Flip was actually bought out by a company, and then the company chose to do away with it.
Oh, Cisco Systems, in 2009, and then I guess they were probably thinking about the camera tech to do like video conferencing, like phones or something. If I had to guess, like voice over IP video conferencing, it seems like it was a really bad investment on their part to buy it, but it happens. It happens.
And that's why you and I put on conferences. We want you guys thinking for yourselves. We want you guys coming up with the systems, and we want you guys so that you can create this and not have to rely on a tool. Very easily you can switch to another tool. I mean, if I had to, I remember talking during the Blab days. Everybody's going, well, what are you going to do if Blab goes away? And that's where I created my process to do my interviews on Zoom. Because I started thinking, what if Blab went away?
Yeah,
sure enough, Blab went away.
It goes away? Well, thank you so much, Tim. I need super claps in the chat for Super Tim Gillette. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for speaking, sharing, and getting people thinking about their process. And thank you for sponsoring as well.
You bet. Thank you, man.
All right, Tim. I'll talk to you later, man.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your Saturday. All right, so at this time, I'm going to talk about the process that I go through, the anatomy of podcasting daily, and how I go about that process of putting out a daily show on IndiePod Daily, the IndiePod Daily Show. So what I'm gonna do, I was thinking I could like walk through the process, but I'm not going to actually actively record something here. I'm going to jump into the group. I'm going to share my screen here, try to make it like kind of big so that you can definitely see it. So when I record a video, I use a folder up here on on Google Chrome. I right click on it. I open all three tabs. And the three tabs that are open are Relay That, which is an AppSumo deal, ding ding, or was an AppSumo deal at the time I bought into. I think it came back around not that long ago. So maybe Craig will open up and do it again at some point. I open that up and I go to IndiePod Community, and then I go social and I go YouTube, so I can get the 1280 by 720, and I pick how I'm gonna lay out my thumbnail for the video. So once I got that thumbnail, I go over to this other tab that opened up, which is Trello. And what Trello does is it enables me to keep track of what I do, like what I'm going to do on each day of the week. So you can see like yesterday was week 6 for Free Ride Friday. If I zoom in a little bit here, and I click on, I can click on there, and then I have a whole checklist of things that I need to go through. So let me create a new one because we're gonna, let's see. So Monday's coming up here, and we're gonna talk about consistency. So actually, this is a little outdated. So let me delete that one, and I'm gonna create a new one. So I'm just gonna go down here, go to IPC, create it, and call it consistency. And I'm going to drag it to the top so I can easily identify which one is the one that's coming up. I'm going to click on it, and then I can say, okay, so I created my thumbnail in Relay That. Boom, done. Now I'm going to schedule the live stream. So here we're going to go, I open up the third tab that opens is StreamYard. So I create a broadcast. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do to the community, and I'm going to do to the Facebook, the Facebook page of Indie Podcast Conference. So we're going to talk about consistency for your podcast. Motivational Monday is here. Help you through the thought process of staying consistent. One thing I also use is Text Expander, so I'm going to hit hashtag GMP space, and then I just dropped in, it's resizing all of StreamYard. So it just dropped in like a bunch of description things with the links that I want in every single thing. So then I click schedule later. So then I'm going to upload. I didn't actually create the thumbnail. So I'm not going to actually hit that right this second, but I would just schedule it. So I just click Monday, and we're going to go live at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'm just going to hit customize, and then I can hit create broadcast. So that will enable me to create a broadcast that's scheduled in the Facebook group and on the Facebook page. Now, why do I bother going live to both those places? It's not actually for the reason you might think. The reason is because the Facebook group, it does not pull the video. It does not pull video Repurpose is not pulling the video from the Facebook group for the live streams. It's actually pulling the video from the Facebook page. So it's going live on both, which, helps for, showing up on social media on, in the IndiePod group or IndiePod Facebook page. But at the same time, I specifically want to go live in the group. So I hit create broadcast, and then it'll do like a post inside of the group, which there might be one here actually. Let's see, build Q&A open discussion. So that's actually in the super circle. So let me go here. So this is what it's going to look like once you schedule for it. Where's it at? Apparently, oh, here it is. Yeah, so I posted this yesterday, and it shows, okay, I'm going to be going live. Join me for Q&A, blah, 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 Tuesday at 1 p.m. So Tuesday at 1 p.m., just like this video that you might be watching right now on Facebook, it's going to show up in those two places. So once I go live, I go back to, or not really that, I go back to Trello and like, okay, I did the description, I scheduled the live stream. Once I live stream, I check it off, and then what I'll do is I go back to here in StreamYard, and I'll go to past broadcasts. I'll click on the dots and click download recording. So I'll download both the recording of the video and the recording of the audio. Now that takes a few minutes. So while that's going on, I go to my second folder over here. It literally is called second, and I open up Repurpose in a new tab. So while I'm waiting for the download to happen, open up Repurpose, and I'll hit Resync. So in this case, it's not going to find anything new because the last thing I did was on Friday, was yesterday. I did the live stream. So it's taking it's a good old time to figure out that there's no new stream, no new videos there. But oh, there it goes. So yeah, so what it's going to do is it's like, oh, there's a new video, and it's going to start to send it over to YouTube. See, IndiePod Facebook page to YouTube is how I have Repurpose structured. So then once I see that it's, shows that it's published, I can, in my second folder here, I have channel videos. So I go click on here. It's going to open up my channel videos. And then it'll say, okay, this one is uploading. I'll click on the pencil, so it'll show like it's processing at the same time. So then I can change out the thumbnail to a high resolution thumbnail, because for some reason it doesn't quite work. And I'll have to get Wahani on that and all that. So okay, so now in my process on Trello, I've already shared it with the Super Circle, shared it on my personal profile. Generally, while I'm streaming, I will do those processes. And then see, change thumbnail on YouTube. So I changed the thumbnail on YouTube, and then I got to add tags to YouTube, which I didn't. So we'll go like audience growth, podcast audience growth. I need to probably take a course on YouTube tags and like how granular do you need to get with that? Like how smart is it? So then I just hit save changes. And now, it'll finish uploading and processing. So now what I do is I open up, let's see, do I have it here? Yeah, File Manager or Posts. So in WP File Manager, I'm going to go and I'm going to rename the MP3 file, because that's probably finished downloading from StreamYard at this point. I rename it into my file format because my next step is upload and add episode to Indie Podcast. So I upload it to here, and it'll be I-99. So we're at 99 episodes of the Indie podcast. And now that that's there, once Hanimura's Simple Video Press plugin, once that figures out, hey, there's a new episode on YouTube, new video on YouTube that I set up, it grabs that video, pops it into a post. So in this case, like here's the post that it would have created. And what I'm going to do is hopefully it grabbed the right thumbnail. In this case, it looks good enough. And what I'm going to do, go back to my Trello. So upload. So I'm going to add the MP3 file. So in this case, I've already done it, media URL. So I've added my MP3 file there from my web server. So now that converts this into part of the podcast feed, not just the post on my website with the video. So it's like, okay, there's the thumbnail, there's the thumbnail, there's the audio player, there is the video, there's my share buttons and sign up to the newsletter, which actually I need to update that because now I've switched to Aweber as of a few days ago and I forgot about that. And it even has the description from the video baked right in. So all that is there. So now if I go back to Trello, let's see, upload, add episode, did that. If I want to post it, if it's short enough, I'll post it to my LinkedIn profile and LinkedIn page. Usually I'll use Repurpose for that and clip it down if I need to. And then my next process is schedule next week's talk, which I haven't been super regular about. I just added that the other day, so I need to do more with that. And then and I just added this the other day, which is write an email about the latest episode. So yeah, once I do all that, it's all checked off. Boxes are green. I know I'm good for that day. Then I'll look at the next day and say, okay, Tech Tuesday, like what do I want to talk about? Let's talk about the Cloud Lifter. All right, so I'm just going to move that to the top so I know that that's the next thing that I'm going to talk about in the group. So that's pretty much the process. It doesn't take a super long time. One of the longest part of the process is sometimes waiting for Video PowerPress to like figure out, hey, like we need to get you added. We need to get this post added up to our to the blog, right? So then I can add the episode. But that's why I use the checkboxes, because I know that it's going to take time. Like if it takes time, like I want to be able to come back and say, oh, there's one thing I haven't done. Oh, 11 out of 12 has been checked off. Oh, I guess I didn't go back and add that. So let me go and do that when I get some free time later today and make that a thing that happens. So that's basically the process that I go through. I know I was jumping back and forth a little bit, but that's how I go. And it just having a couple of those things happen automatically really speeds up the process for going and doing a live podcast on a daily, in a daily format. So I'm open to questions. If anybody has any questions they wanna throw at me, I'm happy to answer. Happy to share my screen, show any more of the process or anything specifically, or how I go about doing it. There's a if you're not used to doing all this, then it's a lot, right? I mean, it took me a little bit of time to figure out myself, like what I wanted to accomplish, how I wanted to set up my my Trello, so that I knew, I was able to keep straight, like different topics, different days, what different subject matters were going to pop up, and yeah, it enables me to do that. Now I put in these SC Talks, which is the Super Circle from the Supercharger podcast program, in here. But right now I'm just doing Q&A, and I don't. So 2 days a week on Saturday and Sunday, I do go live in the group. I just don't turn those into podcast episodes, because it's basically just a shout out to like, hey, go on Saturday, Social Saturday, share your social media link. It's just streamed in the group. And then on Shine on Sunday, it's about celebrating and promoting products and services that you have. So I don't feel the need to turn those into a podcast episode, and it enables me to, pick up my phone here and just boom, I'm live streaming. We're going and doing it. And then I don't have to invest a ton of, time, especially if like on the weekends I'm spending time with the kids, family, blah, blah, blah. It enables me to like get in, get out in like 5 minutes, and then not worry about it and not have to think about it. Like, oh, I got to get to my computer and I need to like turn it into a podcast episode. And that's one of the reasons I made the change, because Saturdays were originally supposed to be scholarship Saturdays that I kind of folded into Fridays, Free Ride Fridays, talking about newbie podcast tips and tricks and stuff like that. So, I'm really excited about like how I can use this process and how other people can use this kind of setup to take their show and turn it into a daily show. Now, with that said, like I've also worked out, so for anybody who's watching, I announced last night that I'm going to be starting up a new YouTube channel, and I kind of alluded to it earlier. And the YouTube channel is called How I Use It. Apparently, it was not taken. There's other variations of that, but what I wanted to do is use Trello in a way that enables me to, because now I'm not trying to go daily. It's more this show is more of a quality over quantity kind of thing. So I wanted to be able to use Trello in a way that still gave me the checklists. Like I could write down all of the different B-roll shots that I want to do, and figure out the flow, do script writing, knowing when the script's complete and ready to, when it's ready to shoot the video, when I'm ready to edit the video, and then when I'm ready to publish. So in this case, like I would just like open up a new idea. We'll call it the MacBook episode, because there's lots. So right now my MacBook episode is in the script writing process, and also want to do one for like a welcome video, explanation video or something. Welcome explanation video. Now, for me, script writing is it's made easier because I actually have a teleprompter that I can mount my camera to, that I bought back when I was doing the top with Super Joe Pardo, because I thought it would be like a great way of speeding up the process. And it is actually a great way of speeding up the process, because that means I'll have to edit less if I write out a script. And then I'll know, if I write out a script, then I know what kind of B-roll I want to get, like B-roll being like what's the product shots and things of that nature, and where I'm going to put them into the at least initially thinking about the process of where I'm going to put them in to the episode. And yeah, so I'm like really excited to get organized and use this, and not have to keep everything top of mind, like I was showing you earlier with the Indie Pod Daily. Like, I don't want to have to like, if I come up with like 3 or 4 ideas for Motivational Monday, I don't want to have to keep them in my mind. I don't want to have to keep them in my reminders. I don't want to have to keep them anywhere. I want to put it in here and then pretty much forget about it until it's the day for me to go and talk about it. That's the goal. So like, just like all this tech stuff like that I'm going to talk about on Tech Tuesday, like this is, me doing a review of tech for podcasting. The idea with the How I Use It show is going to be literally how I use the technology that I have, know, and love, and kind of giving an explanation of, because a lot of my friends beat me up about this idea that, like, Joe, you buy a lot of tech, but you also return a lot of things, and so much my boy Jerry calls me Send It Back Joe. And part of that is because of, like, I'm very particular about how I implement tech into my life, but I'm also really anxious to not anxious isn't the word, but like really excited by the idea of like, oh, if I take this and can I implement it into how I use and how I do things. So to me, like this is an opportunity to kind of explain that, and not necessarily like, okay, so it's a tech review, but I'm not going to be talking about the specs of the things so much as I'll be talking about like, how do I integrate this into my life? How do I integrate this into my business? And then actually showing it, right? Like using the B-roll to like tell a story. So it's going to be more of a storytelling exercise, and an opportunity for me to experiment and try new things that I wouldn't really get to do with a live streamed podcast that I do daily here, or even with the Super Joe Pardo show, where that's talking about talking about a topic and all that, and so I'm really looking forward to how I use it. So I created, if you want to go check it out, there's no videos yet. Obviously, there's nothing in my thing in my Trello here that shows that I'm done. I got this idea because I saw I watched a video showing somebody showed like the day in a life of their iPad Pro and how they go about using it, and I was like, oh wow, like that's really cool. Like I really like that idea, and I think a lot of people would like that idea as well, especially people who, I love tech, but I'm not really into the specs and the numbers and like benchmarking it, and I'm not either, right? Like I'm not one that wants to sit behind a computer and like run the same benchmarks of programs like 6 times over on new computer hardware or anything like that. Like does not sound fun to me at all. Like, it just does not sound fun. And especially when you're like, oh, I got to compare this to this. So now I got to set up this rig and I got to set up that rig. And now you're talking about like cash outlay. And I just feel like it would be awesome to have a show where it's like, yeah, it's tech reviews, but it's not necessarily time constrained, constricted. So I'm really looking forward to giving it a shot and doing some script writing and going from there with it. So yeah, so that's my process. Tim or Steven Green says great system. Thank you so much. It's how I am enabling myself to be able to accomplish so much of this. And actually, I need to create another Trello board, because I really probably should move. I I should probably create one for the virtual conferences, because like I've just been using a spreadsheet, which is fine. It's good. It works. But I'm getting, I kind of want to bring everything under one roof and make it easier for me to update, especially from my giant phone over here. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to possibly doing that. And then maybe with this upcoming event, which if you hadn't heard is SEO for podcasting. It's July 25th. If you want to speak, the speaker button will be available to you. Actually, it probably will be available to you later today, honestly. So yeah, if you want to speak if you got some SEO tricks or tips or tricks or how you go about using SEO to get in front of more podcasters or more podcast listeners, I should say, then this is definitely going to be the show for you, or the conference, the conference for you. Let me see here. So when am I supposed to be talking till? So 2:10. So I'm waiting for our next speaker to get in the room here. Let me reach out and see what is going on. And yeah, so I am really excited for the new as if I didn't have enough things going on, but I love watching tech tubers. I watch a lot of stuff like that. That's pretty much all I watch on YouTube. So I'm looking forward to tossing my hat in the ring and trying to offer something different. There's another show, another YouTube tech tuber that goes by the name of like green eggs and ham. Yeah, so our next speaker is not ready. All right, so I'll figure it out if she's not able to be ready, because she apparently thought it was I'm assuming West Coast time, which is like 5 o'clock, which is not good. So yeah, he I think it was like Greenham Gaming or something like that, where he would basically tell a story, like a story based around around this whatever piece of tech that he's going to be doing. And I always found it really interesting, even though I didn't like his style too much. Like the style didn't really, I wasn't in love with it. I really enjoyed the storytelling aspect of it, and I want to kind of give myself a crack at making that happen. So it looks like our last speaker might not be able to make it, which it's totally fine. We will definitely. I will definitely get her in to a future episode, or future virtual conference here. So we're gonna end up wrapping up a little early here. This conference has been brought to you by Repurpose.io, Simple Easy Marketing, me, and Readily Random Graphics. You should, if you're interested in learning how to launch your podcast within 4 hours and launch it with purpose, totally go to indiepodcasters.com/launch, and me and Larry Roberts will walk you through how to launch your podcast and stay podcasting with our 4-module video course. If you're looking to get into live streaming, go to indiepodcasters.com/master, and you can learn how to master your live streams with Ross Brand, Mr. Livestream himself, and myself over with a 6-module video course. Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate you hanging in there with us today. I know it's it definitely could be a little more boring than some of the other topics out there for podcasting, but I think automation is super important, and I really loved what Tim said about, like, if you're going to worry about automate your marketing first. That's the number one thing that you should be worried about, marketing. If you want to reach more people with your podcast using, you can use it, repurpose.io. It automatically, we've taught, it's been talked about pretty much throughout the day. Go to repurpose.io/icon and sign up to get 25%. A 25% discount, plus you get to try it for free. It's been a cool day. Thank you, Tim. It has been a cool day. I've definitely enjoyed it, and thank you for sticking with me, everybody, with my ear. And I just am not feeling it. I'm very tired, even though I drank an energy drink. Very tired, and definitely want to go lay down for a little while and rest my head. Yeah, you should totally go check out repurpose.io/icon. Check out Tim Gillette's Simple Easy Marketing. I will be speaking there next weekend, next Saturday, July 18th. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be talking about content creation. Also, check out readilyrandom.com/graphics and check out, reach out to Larry Roberts if you want some sick looking graphics for your show, for your one sheet, for your slideshow, whatever it is. Go check him out. And then if you're looking to start a podcast as well, go to indiepodcasters.com/SAP so that you can get the ultimate guide to podcasting. IndiePod University, that price is going up. It won't be $9.99 anymore, starting on Sunday, tomorrow at 8 p.m. The price will be going up. Get a 7-day free trial over at indiepodu.com. Get access to 150 plus hours of podcasting resource videos, including this conference that you're watching right now. After in 1 week, it will be behind the IndiePod paywall. So definitely go check it out. Lock in that $9.99 price. Don't miss out on it. Icon 6 live from the backyard. It's happening September 12th with the rain date of 13th. It'll be happening right behind me, behind this door here. It's limited to 50 live in-person tickets, and there's live stream tickets being sold now. Go to indiepodcasters.com/icon6. If you want to take your podcast to the next level, go to and turn it into your own business and into a machine where you can learn to build a stronger community, make more money, and gain notoriety. Go to indiepodcasters.com/super to get in the super circle today. That price is going up as well soon, so you definitely want to make sure you get in there, where I answer your questions and help you get focused and figure out the money business portion of your podcast. If you want to say thank you to me or any of the speakers for today, go to indiepodcasters.com/TSY for That Suits You. They're doing incredible work over there at That Suits You. They've been nationally recognized. They help young men get suits for interviews, especially ones that are underprivileged and ones that are coming out of jail, out of prison. So it helps them get a leg up when they already have enough terrible things going on. A suit makes all the difference. Go to indiepodcasters.com/TSY to donate. And don't forget, July 25th, we'll be doing the SEO for Podcasting live free virtual conference. Speaker submissions will be going live, actually probably in a little bit, because I'll probably just do it before I go lay down. And speaking of donating, if you donate more than $50 over at indiepodcon.com/TSY, email Tim at timgillette.net, and he will give you a free ticket to Simple Easy Marketing on July 18th, where I will be speaking. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go download this video, download the audio, and I am going to go rest my head because my jaw and my ear are just killing me right now. So everybody, I hope you have a great day. And remember, as a podcaster, you are a leader. And as a leader, please lead with love. Everyone, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll see you all tomorrow for Shine On Sunday.